There's always.
Good evening, everyone. Got a packed house here this evening. Welcome to the Monday, December 11th, 2023 Cumberland Town Council meeting. We had just a quick order of business here. We had an executive session meeting this evening at 6 p.m. that just wrapped up a few minutes ago regarding some town personnel-related matters. So that has been concluded, and now we are in the regular town council meeting at this point. And so the first item of business is the approval of the minutes, and those were the minutes from our November 27th, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
Are you missing something?
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion on those motions or on the minutes themselves?
No.
Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? One abstention. So we had 6 in favor, 1 abstention. That was traveling. Okay, The next item on the agenda is the manager's report. Mr. Manager, I guess he's deferring me over to Megan Lichter. We are very fortunate to have her here from the MSAD Board of Directors to give us a little bit of an update on the school board and what you're working on, and appreciate having you here tonight.
Thanks for having me. I am indeed Megan Lichter on the school board. I chair the Community Engagement Committee, which is a new committee. And in the spirit of engagement, I'm here to update you on the goings-on of the school board, and the same will be done for the select board in North Yarmouth by Leanne Kandura. There are two large events that have happened recently, the book challenge and the new school. So I'll start with the book challenge. In late September, a community member submitted a citizens challenge to the book Genderqueer, which is in the Greeley High School library. This put into action the challenged materials procedure per policy IJJ. As per policy IJJ, a committee was then formed with members chosen by the superintendent, and the members included an administrator, a teacher, a librarian, and a parent. The committee read the book, checked general acceptance of the book by reading a range of reviews, and weighed the value of the material in light of MSAD 51's educational vision. Specifically, the committee addressed the following as they considered the book. Here are some of the questions that they asked themselves and then answered. Did the book support student achievement? Did the book support the goals and objectives of the school unit's educational programs? Did it enrich and support the curriculum? Did it take into consideration the varied interests, abilities, and maturity levels of the students served, again, high school only? Did it stimulate growth in factual knowledge, literary appreciation, aesthetic values, and ethical standards? Was it accurate, and in the case of nonfiction, current? Did it reflect high-quality scholarship and presentation? And finally, did it represent significant authors and works from diverse groups? The committee reviewed the book and submitted its findings and recommended keeping the book in the high school library. The complainant then appealed the committee's decision, and appeals come directly to the board. And the board was then tasked with reading the book and then either upholding the committee's findings or not. The vote to uphold the committee's response was unanimous. There was significant, we voted in to concur with the committee and keep the book in the library. There was significant community comment at the meeting where the vote was held, and the overwhelming majority of public comment was in support of the book, of the librarians, and keeping the book in the high school library. We had a big turnout, and it was really heartening to see much of the community come out for this event. It was also very reassuring to see that the board voted in concert with the majority opinion as expressed both in person at the meeting and via emails that were sent prior to the meeting. It was also reassuring to see that policy IJJ was comprehensive and effective in this scenario, and to date, and to my knowledge, there are no new book challenges. The second big event that we've been working on is the new school. And as you know, our elementary schools are extremely overcrowded. As an example, the number of kids being educated outside Mabel I. Williams in the portables is larger than the number of kids being educated inside the schools. The portables are working at the moment, but they are very expensive to maintain, and they don't meet the need for permanent, cost-effective, and safe classrooms long-term. As you also know, a new school project at 80 Gray Road was proposed, but the referendum to fund the school did not pass last year. So fast forward to July of 2023, when the referendum to purchase 2.3 acres of land abutting the school did pass. And if you don't know where the land is, it is adjacent to Main Campus Drive. If you pull into Campus Drive off Main by the Marquee, you pass the facilities building on the right, the GCA on the left, and then there's a tall white fence. The property abuts the fence, runs toward Tuttle. It abuts part of the cemetery on Main, and then extends toward Mabel I. Williams. So that's generally where it is. We closed on the purchase in late July, and in early October, Superintendent Porter asked architect Steve Blatt to review the physical space and to comment on whether a new school to accommodate pre-K through second would be feasible there. And why Steve Blatt? Because of his work on the overall MSAD campus master plan from 2018 and his familiarity with our campus. So Steve Blatt reviewed the site, found that the space was indeed buildable, which now opens up the potential for a new school option. As we've been working with 2 architects on our campus and on the 80 Gray Road option, we asked both architects to comment on the space and how they would approach building a new school there. The facilities committee was tasked with reviewing their answers, and I'll give you an example of the questions that we asked them, both in writing and via in-person meetings with each firm, and the facilities committee then made a recommendation about whom to move forward with as we consider the on-campus option. The questions asked of both Steve Blatt and Oak Point included things like, what would the footprint or size of a building look like, and what's the most suitable placement for the building? What are the essential characteristics that would be included in designing a pre-K through 1 school? How would you design traffic flow, access, and parking for the school site? What is your experience with intergovernmental agencies in related to building projects, for instance? How would you work with town officials, state agencies like MDOT and DEP, and how does your experience assist with this project? What environmental considerations would you recommend? What is the time frame that you would need in drafting a concept design that could be ready for voter approval? What is your preferred role in helping to educate stakeholders and the public about the concept? Does your plan require more land? And does your plan account for potential expansion of pre-K or expansion in general? And I'll come back to this in just a minute. So the facilities committee agreed that Steve Blatt's answers were most in line with our priorities, and we officially recommended we move forward with his firm. This was put to a vote, and the board voted unanimously on December 4 to approve Steve Blatt as our architect and to move forward with a contract for concept design. So a timeline for final concept, public hearing, new referendum, that's all in the works. We would very much like, if this option is feasible, to push this forward for a vote in June of 2024, but a lot of moving pieces on the board. So a note on that last question about expansion and our enrollment projections. And so in light of this new school option, Superintendent Porter asked Rebecca Wendell, who is our enrollment specialist, to revisit her enrollment projection. She presented her findings to the board at the end of November and confirmed that enrollment continues to increase. And I think her information was made available to you, to the town council, and her projections can be reviewed by you, and I think she'll make herself available for questions as well. She found specifically that pre-K through first is expected to increase over the next decade to 428 students, up 64 from the 2022 study. So does the new school accommodate for that? Yes, it does. The new school also has areas for expansion. So the new school is taking these numbers, so a decade from now, the projected size of the student capacity can be met by the new school, plus more. Also in her enrollment study, overall numbers are up. Total students in the entire school is projected to be 2757, so that's pre-K through 12, in 2033. Compare that to 2174 this year, so the numbers are continuing to go up. Her data comes from, by the way, resident births, which comes from the main CDC top to October of every year. She gets her data also from enrollment data and housing data. Some questions that are unanswered at the moment are, was the mark on Highway 1 included in this? And that I don't know. Jeff didn't get an answer in time for this meeting. The last small update, but important one, is that we are fully staffed at present from an educator perspective, including a fully staffed special education department, which has been in the works for a long time. Any questions?
Well, first up, before we open it up to any questions, thank you so much for coming. I think this is really important, and I hope this becomes some type of regular thing where we get little updates from the school board, and if you need updates at the school board from the town council, I think myself and others are probably willing to do that as well. I mean, it goes both ways, so thank you for coming tonight. Do we have any questions from the council immediately? Councilor Bill.
I'm not sure that an answer is forthcoming this evening or not, but, and that's really not important, but it's be something that, it's my understanding, and was able to watch the video replay, the enrollment has been relatively flat for the last 10 years. And so we've been adding portables nonstop, and so I'm just curious and how we're utilizing our facility as it is, and particularly as we design new space. I'm really critical about when we define something that we're going to say, I'm going to build for K2 or K3 or something, but I think it is imperative for making sure that we have designed flex space so that schools can be repurposed, reused, reconfigured as it needed. We all know that cohorts change over time. We look at the last trend of special needs children, that continues to rise, and those are costly. And so I recognize that there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of, gaps that need to be filled here and there. But I think what my point is that we should be any type of school that we're proposing to be built, if it is not flexible, if it's not expandable, we'll be shortchanging ourselves.
Agreed. And while the plan is not set, something that the architecture firm did point out is that the building that they would propose can be expanded, and expanded relatively easily. So the building would accommodate the number of students and then some that are projected to be in that cohort with room for expansion. There's also room for expansion on both Mabel I and the middle school.
I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment, and I want to thank the school board for your willingness to listen. It's been a very different relationship we've had with you than it has in the past, and I, for one, appreciate that.
I'm glad to hear it. More to come, more engagement to come.
Do you have anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I did attend the appeal on Monday, and I just wanted to say, if any of them are listening, thank you to all of the students who showed up and spoke. It was really incredible, the content that was shared, the emotion. It was one of those little snippets of time that you're kind of never going to forget, just watching kind of youngsters out there and speaking their minds. It was really special. So if you do have the opportunity to thank them, please do so, at least on my behalf.
Will do. Yeah, it was really wonderful.
Councilor Cobb.
I said this before when you were talking about building on Gray Road. Let's plan this for the future. Let's not plan on a future expansion. Let's build it to fit the needs. It's cheaper to build it now than it is to add on it down the road. Keep that in mind. And I said that when we talked about Gray Road in North Yarmouth, so.
Absolutely.
Here.
Okay, well, thank you very much,
Thank
Megan.
you.
Appreciate you coming. Mr. Manager, is there anything else under manager's report?
No, I'm going to hold my comments related to the gingerbread house judging on Saturday at Valhalla to the end. So those of you who are here for that will have to wait a little bit. And I did want to share, we had a great event at Valhalla yesterday honoring 7 vets that were here in Cumberland that really, really very special. It was probably 30 or 40 people that attended. The vets were all recognized and given a wreath. The Department of Corrections Honor Guard was there. It was very, very special event. And Devin Galvin continues to do an outstanding job with our active living program. And I'm just proud that we were able to do that. And I hope next year, looking around the room, there are more than 7 vets in the room today. I hope you will attend next year because it was a very, very special event. So I'll get back to the gingerbread house under new business.
That's great. Keep us waiting. Thank you. Okay, that concludes manager's report. I don't know if we have any extra chairs. There's a couple folks standing, I see. If you guys seem to be fine, but there may be a few empty ones still in the seats, so feel free to squeeze in. But if not, if there's any in the hallway, feel free to grab them, or in the other conference room, we can grab those as well. A little chilly in
Is
there.
anyone else chilly?
I think it's just because the
I feel it. I
room's
feel it.
packed.
Blasting.
Okay,
When I
so
walked into here, it was 9.
moving from manager's report, we will now go to public discussion. Public discussion is for comments on items that are not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. Rebuttal comments will be limited to 2 minutes. Public discussion topics may be brought up again under new business for further council discussion. Before we invite folks to come up for public discussion, I would just kindly ask that if your comments or your discussion points have something to do with one of the agenda items coming up, it's probably best to maybe reserve those for that agenda item when we talk about that. So is there anyone here that has anything that they would like to share under public discussion for a topic that's not on the agenda? Please. And just for folks coming up, I think we know many of you in the room, but if you don't mind just saying your name and where you live, that'd be great.
Bruce Sherwin, Blanchard Road. I want to talk a little bit about TIF financing for people. TIF financing cannot be used for general expense or school expenses, number one. Number two, it will increase property taxes in our town because they can't be used for that, specifically because we're talking about doing some residential apartments that bring in numbers of people. We already have one going down on Route 1, 55 units. In addition to a 45-unit condo going in there. We got 100 units coming in on Route 1. We have a TIF committee. I'm not very happy with how the TIF money is handled in our town. We have a TIF committee made up of 3 councilors only. That's not a big enough committee, in my opinion. All you need is to convince one person to go along with you, in that to get 2 out of 3. That's not a big enough committee, and I'm not very happy about it. I'd like to see something done about that. I think votes on TIF money, our taxpayers' money, should come to the town council, a 7-person vote. 6 tonight with Councilor Reed's not here. I'm unhappy he's not here because I respect his opinion, and I'd like him to hear what I say. Now, part of this that I want people to know is West Cumberland right now has got a 72-unit housing project scheduled. Is a use of TIF money that they're going to use TIF money for that they've announced. They're going to use TIF money to pay for public water to get to it so that we can have 72 units of housing that contain more residents for our general services, police, fire, libraries, to take, and especially the school department. We're using TIF money to increase our property taxes. And just as a reference, the same thing is happening with the ball fields, using TIF money to help increase our property taxes. Not a good scene for our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council on a topic that's not on the agenda this evening? Please.
Good evening, Scott Jordan from Cumberland. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but since Megan Lichter from the school board decided to open the door, I thought I would go through it. I was the complainant who filed the book challenge. She went through the process and outlined the process, but ironically, a lot of the steps that took place were not mentioned tonight. The committee that was formed, there was no dissenting opinions on that committee. When you read the decision, again, there was no dissenting opinions. When you look at the registered voters on that committee, it's all a particular party. During the last step of that appeal process, during public comment, Councilmember Filson had referenced the high school students who came out and spoke. Right before I spoke, I asked for the Pledge of Allegiance to be said as a veteran, especially with the number of veterans that were in the building. I was instantly told no, and a large group of those high school students laughed. That's where we are today. No respect, no morals, no values. Where are people's morals or their moral compass? Where are our leaders' compass? You know, Councilmember Vale, I brought a poster from that book to a prior town council meeting. You said I was out of order, not more than 5 seconds into it. But that same book is in our high school. The kids can look at it, but grown adults in a room can't look at it. Can you answer that question, why I was out of order?
This is a public forum. This is recorded and has access to everybody from an infant on all the ways up to 100. There is content that is what I find to be objectionable to young children, and I viewed that as being objectionable to be viewed by young children. And anything that comes before this council that I feel is objectionable to young children that is recorded, I'm going to take a stand against that. If you were to come up here with a Playboy magazine or something of that similar content, I would find that to be objectionable for young children.
You just made my point. Your hypocrisy is mind-blowing. Playboy magazine, genderqueer. I can't hold a picture of a picture that's in the book at a town council meeting with all grown adults. You actually think a 1-year-old's watching the town council meeting? Hold on. You actually think a 5-year-old's watching the town council meeting? Really? Maybe their parents have some of those kids watching, possibly. But you would hope those parents would ask the kids to leave the room, turn the channel off. I don't know. But our high school kids who aren't even the right appropriate age to read this book based on the author's statement are allowed to see these type of books in our libraries. And that's not even the major issue. That book isn't even the major issue. There's a whole list of them. Lawn Boy, All Boys Aren't Blue, where they're basically telling you, you need to apologize for being white. I didn't get to pick my parents, nor did any of you. But I have to pay reparations? I have to apologize for being white? Seriously? Think about this. You, Councilor Segrist, at a prior meeting, when I basically said low-income housing, feel free to go back and watch, was alluding that I was racist for my comments. My son's black. My youngest son is Jewish. I'm not racist. I'm just making a point. Think about what you're doing. You want to put an RFP out. I'm going to tie this in now. You want to put an RFP out for affordable housing. As I understand it, there was only one vendor. Are you doing the right thing for the community if you decide to proceed forward with one vendor's numbers, as opposed to maybe tabling it and waiting to see if other vendors would take advantage of it? I don't know. I just know that I do RFPs for a living, and we try to make sure that we get a number of different opinions at the end of the day. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll open that up to you, unless we need to wait until that agenda item.
No, I mean, if you'd like me to address that, this was issued to quite a few different development companies, and we were fortunate enough to have one respond back with something that I feel personally meets the needs of what we're looking for. But would we have loved to have more responses? Sure. We just didn't get those. So.
You don't think that it would be fair to maybe table it for a little while longer and maybe broaden your reach to other vendors?
Well, we can discuss that as part of the agenda
Sure.
item when it comes up.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public like to address an item that's not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment, public discussion, and we will move to legislation and policy. First item on the agenda is 23-128, to hold a public hearing to consider and act on authorizing the town manager to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Westbrook Development Corporation for the purposes of pursuing the affordable housing development set forth in their proposal dated November 2nd, 2023. And Mr. Manager, I don't know if you planned on kicking this off in terms of background a little bit, or if you would like.
No, I did, if that's okay.
Yep, please, go ahead.
So, first, I'd like to thank Bruce Sherwin for bringing up his points. We may disagree, but I appreciate you bringing up some of those points. and some of those are germane to this process. So that everybody knows, the TIF committee is a 3-member committee of the council. They make a recommendation to the full council for a vote. They may like a project and bring it to the full council, but the full council always hears the recommendation. It's no different than, but that's the rules. There's no different than the ordinance committee, it's no different than the finance committee. So that, I appreciate you bringing that up, because if you were not sure about that, others might have the same question, so I appreciate that. Some sad news. The 55 units of housing for seniors on Route 1 that would have been put forward for about 60% of the average median income basically was withdrawn on Friday. It's no longer a project. So that project is gone, and that had to do with the funding at Maine State Housing because the rules had changed. It has to do with what they call the low-income tax credits. That money used to be fairly available to most developers, and that became very competitive. So that our developer, Nathan Zanton, felt that our project was not competitive enough and that he withdrew it from the process, which was too bad. And I hope I can walk people through tonight some of the uses of TIF money and how it is used. And I hope you can follow along. And if you can't, call me, come in and see me, I'll walk you through it, because it is a complex process and it's not done in one sitting or 2 or 3. It takes a long time to understand it. So I will be happy to go through that. So tonight, though, we're talking about the project before you, which is the units of housing on Drown Road and Tuttle Road. And that project is shown here on the screen. It's a little hard to see, but the RFP was put out, and we requested, we urged several of the developers we had worked with to apply. And some of them just said they were too busy. Some of them just felt it was just not the right time for them. And the one that did submit it had no idea who was submitting or not submitting, and submitted it per our requirements and did a nice job. Basically, he presented us with 3 buildings of housing, one dedicated specifically for seniors, and the 2 other buildings, the 2 other 36-unit buildings, would be for families and non-restricted. The restrictions that we talk about, however, have to do solely with income, and we're going to get to that right now. For me, this is a very important part of the project. So we have 71 single-bedroom units, 21 2-bedroom units, and 15 3-bedroom units. None of these are paid for by the town of Cumberland. There's some information out there that we're building this $35 million project. We're not building it. Westbrook Development Corporation is building this project with state and federal funds that they feel they can achieve because of the project and this project's location and our support as part of the project. And we'll get into how this works. So what they're also doing is putting forward a project that basically is at 60% of the area median income. And that for us would be, for a one-family person, would be a $49,700. And it goes up to a four-member unit household to about just under $71,000. What do those rents look like for these units? Those rents look like anywhere from $1,200 a month up to about $1,800 for the 3-bedroom units. Now, what does a typical renter look like? For us, when we look at this, it's basically the middle-income families of our community, public works operators that are earning around $44,000, retired individuals with less than $50,000 of Social Security and pension income. 2 bedrooms might be a retail worker and a daycare worker, or a single teacher with 1 child earning less than $55,000. 3-bedroom could be a teacher with 2 young children and earning about $62,500, or EMT and paramedics slash EMT paramedic and a daycare worker with 2 children earning less than $70,000. These are the people that we're looking to try to service in our community, and our developer feels strongly that those people exist in our community and will be benefited from this project. Now, one of the questions is, well, what happens when somebody gets a raise, gets a better job, gets a promotion at work? Are they going to get kicked out on the streets? No. That's not what this project is about, and that's not what HUD is about. They basically want people to save a little bit of money, basically maybe move into a bigger unit or move into their first home if they could afford it. And that's a huge problem here in Cumberland. So we get into the big question of the day, and that's going to be taxes, taxes, taxes. And we are a high-paying community in taxes. We are the 148th highest tax community in the state of Maine, out of a little over 500 towns and cities. And we are the second behind Brunswick in Cumberland County, just ahead of Fry Island, North Yarmouth, and Yarmouth. So that's where we stand. We're an expensive community to live in. There's no hiding that. Those are numbers on the state website. Be happy to share those with you and get those to you. But when we look at our taxes, we have to look at the biggest cost in our taxes is education. And how do we pay for that if kids move into this neighborhood that's in a TIF district, and we're going to get into that too, without basically violating the law, which Bruce is correct, you can't pay for education through TIF dollars. But you can pay for costs and offset costs that you have plans to spend in the future anyway. So for us, it all goes down to what we're paying currently for education. And this is what our budget is this year for, and this is one of the numbers flying around that kind of is disturbing, but it is incorrect, is that, oh, okay, I'd be happy to. We're spending $23 million a year on education, $23.1 million. And we have 1,423.5 students in our school system this year. Math is very simple, it's just division, and it's $16,230 we're paying for the Cumberland kids to go get educated. So that's in our budget. That's what I'm sending every month to the school. I send 1/12 of that to the school, and that's what it comes out to when you divide it by the number of children we have. The developer for this project basically gave us a formula for what he thought would be a project and how many kids would be in this project. And he basically said that the bedrooms in excess of a one-bedroom unit, remember there's 71 one-bedroom units, would basically have about 0.7 children per extra bedroom. And when you do the math, there's 21 two-bedroom units, so there's 21 extra bedrooms. 70% of those that come out to 15 children in his estimate. And there are 15 three-bedroom units, so there's 30 extra bedrooms, 2 times 15. And that's at 70% is 21 kids that would be added in his estimate. But when we look at what we already have in our community, if you're familiar with the project down on Route 1 that has 45 single-family homes and 96 apartments today, in those 45 single-family homes, there are 10 children, and in those 96 apartments, there are 2 children that attend the SAD. So while I'm not disagreeing, I'm just saying this is what we have for evidence in our own community. So in the 96 apartments and 45 homes today, there are 12 children. So how do we pay for all this? So the first item is when we look at our $16,230 cost for education times 12 children, it's just under $200,000. When we multiply that times 36, it's just under $600,000. But remember, this isn't a TIF district, so we can't just pay general fund costs with that. We have to look for offset costs. And for us, we're looking at about $553,000 a year is generated from TIF District 8, and this is where this project will be located. Currently, we're only collecting 50% of the value of TIF District 8 in the general fund, and 50% is going toward the TIF fund. And I know this gets very convoluted, so I'm going to put it online and put it as part of the minutes as well. But when we look at the half that goes to the general fund, it's currently paying $382,088 toward education. Because again, 69% of all our costs, it goes toward education. So and when you basically subtract that from what we're going to gain from this TIF district, there's a delta of about $202,000 if you're using 36 kids. And I'll stick with that number for now. But what types of projects can be built in the TIF district with the monies that are generated? So over 24 years that remains in the TIF district,
There'll be over $553,000 a year generator, over $13 million. It'll probably be closer to 15 or 16 when you add inflation and everything else to that, but it's going to be a sizable amount of money. We look at the Little League fields that'll have to get moved. We've been talking to the Little League for several years now. It's not just happened because of this project. It's happened because we've kind of outgrown the facility. It's been there for, I don't know, 40 years, 50 years. My kids played on it, so it's close to at least 30 years, but I know it's well over that. 70, somebody said? Oh. No, your brothers played and they're 70, so I guess we'll know. They'll be on the honorary all-star team soon, so. So that field could be removed, and we could build a much bigger complex for that and to accommodate the kids that are playing there today. Yes, we could move it to Twin Brook somehow. That would be difficult, but moving the whole complex makes sense because when it was the Drown Road and it housed the school and the fields were out back, it all made sense. It doesn't make that much sense anymore today to have the parking crammed in there, the kids crammed in there, and it really has served its time, and I think this project is a good replacement for it. We need public safety communication towers. We've been talking about this for 3 to 5 years, and that's going to cost us $2 million. We have fire trucks approved in this TIF district. That's going to be $1.5 million. We're going to be allowed to do road paving, not just in this district, but in other areas of town. That's about $250,000 a mile. There are sidewalks, paramedics. It could be future train service and future bus service with transit amendments. So there's a ton of things that the money that's generated in this district, over $13 million, could be spent on legally, and it's been approved by the state or could be approved by the state. So what about the other costs associated with this project? And there are costs, but for us, the majority of those costs are paid for by the developer, Westbrook Development Corporation. The trash, paid for by the developer. Snow plowing, by the developer. Future paving and road repairs, paid by the developer. Water and sewer, paid by the developer. Police, fire, and rescue, no additional increase in our police force or fire is anticipated. And even if we could, I don't know if we can hire anybody today. We have 2 openings downstairs in our police department, and we have 2 at the fire department still. So it has been difficult over the years, and they've done the best they can to deal with things. So items built through TIF money that are not in the general fund are, when we talk about the road connection to Tuttle Road, the developer did not propose a connection to Tuttle Road. He basically put the parking lot in, stopped, and came back out onto Drown Road. And Ron Kopp said, that's not going to be acceptable. We're going to have to include a connection to Tuttle Road. And that was basically added as part of that last diagram I showed you. We looked at overflow parking. We were trying to, in our last bond issue, get a parking lot paid for here at Town Hall because of the crowding with everything going on, and that didn't happen. There's a possibility now that it could be a shared parking lot that we could utilize during the days, and it could be utilized for overflow parking and for clearing out lots and all that stuff for the building. That would have to be paid for also out of TIF funds. But these are all one and done funds. This isn't like every year these costs come up. So I'm anticipating the road is about $250,000 to connect it to Tuttle Road, and the parking lot is about a similar amount, and the Little League fields are probably going to be about $3 million. We're looking at 4 fields. We're looking at most likely on a 10-acre parcel that we have on Stiles Way. That would include a 170-car parking lot. That parking lot could also double as a potential parking area for maybe future train service that is on the Downeaster line today. There's money out right now in the federal government for exploring a lot of these. If you read the article in the paper on Sunday, there was an article related to the train service. This would be an ideal place for that as well. So there is a lot of things that we still can do with this. So when we do look at how TIF funding works, because there's really some misinformation out there that TIF districts impact our neighbors in a very negative way. And what you need to know is, again, go to the Department of Education website and just look up, put in the word ED 279 and look up the form. It's 6 pages, painful to follow, but if you have a Greeley High School degree in math, you will do great on this website because it's a lot of algebra and it's a lot of subtraction and addition. But the first thing they do is they basically calculate what the cost for essential programs and services require. That is the minimum education the state provides to every single school district in the state. That's what they require of us, essential programs and services. That's the baseline for education, and that's the baseline for cost sharing when they figure out the cost for education. So for us, that came out to a little over just under $19.9 million. The state requires every municipality in the state to raise $6.97 for education. That's the first cost sharing we have, is with the state. Everybody, every town, every city, $6.97 times your value. That comes out to a little over $10.5 million. Now, there's a big gap there. 19.9 and 10.5 is a big gap, and it's about $9.3 million. That is the contribution that the state gives us for aid to education. That's what they're paying the town of Cumberland to the SAD for our cost for educating our kids. And that is the only thing that changes. So if we didn't have the TIF district, we would pay about $175,000 more toward educating our kids because our value would be $25 million higher. It's sheltered when you have it in a TIF district. They say, okay, set it over here and use it for economic development or affordable housing, and we will allow you to set it aside and not include that in your calculation. So if we didn't have the TIF district, it would be another $175,000 that we would pay toward education. North Yarmouth's numbers don't change. They have the same type of numbers. They have an expected contribution because of the value of the community, and their TIF is subtracted from it as well. So when I look at this, if this TIF district weren't even on the face of the earth today, it was just raw land like it was before, yes, we would be getting property values, no different than what we would get anyway. But the real difference is the savings we get from the TIF district basically shelters that $25 million in a very positive way. And there's also the second part of our funding. Everything above EPS is funded by valuation. So our school budget is not $29 million, it's over $44 million. And that difference is paid for by the two communities in value. So we take the two communities and then we divide the value, and I don't know, we're 71+% of the value. North Yarmouth is just over 28%. And that's how we share in the cost for the rest of it. That would also increase by another % if we didn't have this TIF district, because that money too is sheltered from those calculations, and we'd pay another $170,000 again toward education. So that money we would be spending would be about $350,000 a year more without TIF District 8. So that is a huge cost for us, and then there's another cost for county that's a much smaller number, but that's why this is so important that we go through this together. And I'm gonna wrap up here real quick. But you know, why are we here? And maybe that's where I should have started, and maybe would have gotten a lot of people to get rid of that Excedrin headache I just gave you with all the math. But I'm going to try to blow this up a little bit so maybe you can see it a little bit better. But for me, we got here primarily because of what's happened in our community over the last several years. And that is the explosion in our housing. In 2008, we had 161 homes that were for sale, 161. The median price was $386,000 and change. The median, for you non-math people, is that house that's exactly in the middle. So there's, at $386,000, their middle house, then there's half the group is less cost and half the group is more. The average price was $526,660, so you could tell there were some expensive houses sold to drive the average up to that high. At that time, there were 81 homes available in Cumberland that were less than $400,000. And I'm going to get to the reason I say $400,000 in a minute. Today, through September, there were 80 homes sold through September. The median price, the house in the middle again, was $800,000. And the average price was $952,000. There were 8 homes, 8, count them on 2 hands, 8 homes that were under $400,000 in 2023. How the heck is anybody going to live here or move here or work here? The 30% of my workers live here in Cumberland today. That's an extraordinary number. But if they had to move here today, my finance director, I just hired her. She was living in Yarmouth in an apartment, and she could finally save enough money to buy a house. She came here. She went to North Yarmouth. She went to Auburn. She landed in Jay before she could find a house, in Jay, Maine. She travels an hour each way to come here. She's an amazing lady, and I don't want to lose her. But housing is awful when you can't find something that's that affordable. Now, why is $400,000 the number I'm throwing around today? Maine State Housing says affordable housing should cost 120% of the median income. 120% of the median income for our town, for Cumberland, is $143,400, $143,400. So a family together, husband and wife, $143,400. What can that buy you for a home? $395,000 home. That's what it can buy you. When you look at your income, when you look at mortgage insurance, because you're only going to be able to put 5% down on a $400,000 home, and then you look at what's available in Cumberland, 8 homes, well, it's just not going to happen. So we have a crisis, we have a problem. Now, this meeting isn't going to fix it tonight. It certainly isn't going to fix it. And what we're trying to do after tonight is hold 3 major meetings over at Valhalla the first of the year after the holidays. Those meetings are going to be on January 8th, February 1st, and then I think it's February 18th is the last one, or toward the end of February. I lost my...
29th.
29th, thank you, Mark.
28 days
And
a month.
we're going to basically try to break everybody into groups and listen and try to get the questions answered and try to get all the questions you have as a community gathered, and we're going to post them on the website. We're going to answer them that evening, and we're going to start at 6 o'clock and stay until the last person leaves, because this is important that we get it right. The 3 meetings, you don't have to attend all 3. You can come to 1 or 2 or whatever you'd like, but we're going to have basically a sign-up that's going online tomorrow, and we're going to do it in the sign-up genius mode. I'm trying to bring it up here because my tech abilities are a little bit suspect. But we're going to try to limit it to 100 people so we can break out into groups of 6 or 8. We're going to basically go around to every table. Every table is going to report out. Every table is going to have questions. Every table is going to have questions of us that they want answered as well. So we're going to try to facilitate this meeting in a way that hopefully you can share your concerns, share your support, share maybe not your support, or share what you're concerned about and why you're concerned, because I can't fix fear if I don't know what it is. And I don't know what people are afraid of, to be honest with you. I don't understand, I really don't understand, and I truly mean this honestly, where the fear comes from. And then I'm hoping that you leave those meetings more informed and in a way that kind of gives you some background of what we are trying to do with this project. We're trying to diversify the housing base that we presently don't have. We just don't have any diversified housing. And the projects that we're looking for on our horizon are important projects to this community. And we hope that you'll participate and attend. We may disagree, but that's okay. I still want to be neighbors. I still want us all to be friends. Bruce, you and I probably will never agree on much, and that's okay. But I truly mean it when I say I appreciate your opinions, because you tell me what they are. I don't have to guess. And that means a lot to me. And I hope you participate, and I hope you bring those questions with you, because we can't get to a good place unless we come together and really get behind whatever this is. And then on March 5th, there's an advisory, whatever you want to call it, non-binding referendum. And that's not to protect the council. That's to protect the citizens of the community, because our charter is written very specifically to say these are the events that are allowed to be brought to referendum. And if it's a binding referendum, that basically takes those rights away from the rest of the community. And our attorney is recommending that we not do that. The council can proclaim tonight in the next item that if the residents of our community say that it's not the right time for this, or they don't want to move forward, we move on to the next project. We don't try to overturn that, because that, to me, is not the democratic process. And honestly, my 6 months will get much shorter if that's what happens. I'll be gone in 3 months. So, because the democracy has to basically proceed. I am for that more than I am for anything I can tell you about tonight, because I'm telling you that if the vote comes through as a negative vote, we move on. Bob, you and I had a negative vote on Forest Lake decades ago. We tried to buy property around Forest Lake, and it went down. We moved on. And we ended up on the beach and barely got that, but it was a majority that we moved forward with. There are wins and losses all across the board, and it doesn't have to be adversarial. It just has to be collaborative in a way that we can respect opinions and we can move forward. So I hope tonight that you will share your concerns with the council. They're going to listen. I hope you can basically attend these meetings. The MOU is just to start the process. The developer doesn't get a contract just because he has an MOU. That just moves us forward into the community stage, and then the vote on March 5th will be the vote that basically says we're going forward or we're not. And I hope people will get educated and come forward with their concerns, and hope to see you all at Valhalla. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manager, for that great background. It's very helpful. So now that we've got that background laid a little bit, maybe it makes sense to open this up for some public discussion so we can get some public comments on anything that was said or anything that you've read or anything you have questions about. So if you don't mind stepping up, if you have comments here, just say your name and where you live. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Is this on?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it is.
I think you just got to be a
Okay.
little closer to it.
My name is Catherine Pelletreau, and I live on Drown Road here, number 55. I want to give a shout out to Bill Shane because that was a really good presentation. And it gave me a lot of new information that I had not considered prior to tonight. So I appreciate that, but it also is frustrating because we have, prepared comments, et cetera, and now we're going to be, preparing more based on the information that came tonight. So I just want to express that frustration. So other comments. I've lived here almost 30 years. I have 2 kids who are in their 20s. I want them to be able to live here if they want to live here. I have one of my besties right up here around the corner who's desperate to stay here and cannot afford to live here. So I just want to be really clear that the letter that came from us today, I sent it to all of you. We had 20 people from the Village Green community sign it, and since I sent it, I've got several more signatures as well. It is not an opposition to affordable housing letter. And I hope there's no confusion about that. We're in favor of affordable housing, but not at this location. This is not the right location. And frankly, it reminds me a little bit years ago when we had a, shall I call it an argument, a town discussion, a heated town discussion about the brush dump and the compost, where what ended up happening is the town jumped to a location too quickly and ended up, by doing that, having to switch locations 2 or 3 times and set communities against one another. And it was awful. And it happened because the council wasn't as thoughtful as they should have been. So I want to ask you to please be more thoughtful going forward. For example, I sit on the homeowners association in my community down here. We were never notified about this project. Nobody in our community knew about this location until somebody found out, I don't know, heard from somebody or other in the wherever, by chance. And that just doesn't seem right to me. It just doesn't seem right to me. You know what this road is like. You probably all drive it. We've already got a problem with people using this as a shortcut to avoid, the main light in the middle of town. So the idea of having 107 units worth of new cars, which, our estimate was about 155. I don't know if that's right or not, 100, 170, whatever it is. Using our neighborhood as a thoroughfare to get to the Turnpike and 295, no wonder we're concerned. No wonder we're concerned. And the road right now is not built to take two large vehicles going both directions. So we see that as that's a huge problem for us. And we have no idea what you're going to propose to fix it, if anything. We haven't seen any traffic studies. All we know is that our neighborhood is already, being troubled by being used as a shortcut to avoid the main part of town. I'm not going to go through my letter. You all have it. There's a lot of information in there. But I will say that, again, we want to be clear that we're not taking a position against affordable housing. But we do not think this is the right location. And we ask you to please look at other locations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your detailed letter. Yes, do you mind, Catherine, if we just ask a follow-up
Do you
question?
mind clarifying the street you were referencing?
Yeah, it's Drown Road.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Which is this
Yep.
road, and then it connects to Wyman Way and goes
Okay.
out to Route 9.
Okay.
Which is how you get to the Turnpike. That is how these people are going to get to the Turnpike.
Thank you.
I think that lady was waiting.
Oh, so,
Oh, I'm sorry. I was accused of cutting into line in elementary school, too. Sorry. Good evening, I'm David Nicholas. I live on Drown Road as well, number 61. I have a couple of fundamental messages for you. First of all, I'm speaking for myself, but I've also talked to a good deal of our neighbors, number of our neighbors. And I want to reiterate what Catherine just said. And it's extremely important that you folks understand this. We are not here opposing affordable housing. Seriously, we are not. There clearly is a serious market issue. Whether this town can solve that or not is another matter. It's a tall order. A very tall order, and it's a very ambitious project to try to do so. But we're just very concerned that this project is being put in the wrong place. The town committed to Village Green. People have come into Village Green and made major life investments. Many people are there for their forever home. Our home, right on Drown Road, it's going to turn into heavy traffic. Noise, congestion, a condition completely contrary to what you approved of when you approved the plan for Village Green. Village Green, or Drown Road, is essentially a pedestrian road. Obviously, we drive in and out of our driveways there, but we're a walking neighborhood. This is a road where kids learn to ride their bicycles. You're going to turn it into a road with heavy traffic. The road is not engineered or sized sufficiently to be able to handle that kind of use. So we're living in terror that you're next coming back and they're going to rebuild Drown Road right in front of our houses and turn it into something that you can put a yellow line down through. Planning is important for a community, and I don't need to tell you that. But you can't uproot and throw away plans every 10 years. And I'll give you a very good example of that. You could build this project in the Cumberland Common. Oh, no, come on. No, we can't do that. That's the Common. We have that as a planned open space in the middle of town. You wouldn't dream of doing that. I'm asking you to consider the fact that you're making a very substantial change to the environs of this neighborhood, which pays $600 million a year, $600,000 a year in property taxes to the town. I talked to the assessor today about that.
The senior citizen, the impact on the senior citizens that are here, I'm sure we all welcome that housing for them. Quite honestly, you know these folks probably better than I do, but they're not gonna show up here and complain. They're terrified they're gonna lose their apartment if they do. Looking out the window, they're going to be seeing construction for 18 months, noise. Think about that, really. I mean, they have enough noise with these diesels across the road, but how about on the other side? And they're looking out their windows now and they see open space and trees and kids playing baseball and so forth. They're going to be looking out at walls of buildings, high buildings. There's going to be an influx of lots more people as a result of all these units. Lots more people in the neighborhood walking around and so forth. It's the point I'm trying to make is it significantly changes what we have here now, which complies with your plan, you know, and now we're uprooting this. I've lived in communities where the community has, the town has assembled land themselves, and I'm sure this is not something new for you to think about. But on the one hand, there is quite a lot of vacant land in this town, you know, and this is trying to be squeezed in here inappropriately. The impact that it's going to have is decidedly negative. And in terms of the financial or fiscal impact, I don't think we have a clear understanding of that. I really don't. And why are we adding kids to the school department? Is the town choosing to do that? Why? I guess I'm out of time, huh?
We do have a lot of people here tonight, but David, thank you so
Okay.
much for sharing your thoughts. We appreciate that.
Okay, folks, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
Appreciate
you.
the opportunity.
Hi, Joyce Bond from Blackstrap Road in West Cumberland. And I'm here to encourage you to not sign anything with a development company at this point because I don't believe we've asked for the correct fit for this town. I'm not sure why you want to add 100 new households to this town, and that's what this project would do. Because if people from this town move into it, their places are going to be open for new people to come into. So it's not like we're just moving people around in town. We're adding another 100 households. And part of the problem with the cost of this town is we've been adding households for quite a few years at 20% rate. We have been adding way too many households to this town without a clear vision as to what it's going to do to us. Our school system is bursting because we've invited everybody in. Well, it's about time we start taking care of the people we already have. The more expensive this place gets, the more the people who don't have kids in school and are paying their taxes and helping pay for those kids are being forced to move out, and they're getting replaced with more kids. So I don't have a problem with affordable housing. I don't have a problem with reasonably sized developments like the task force recommended, which was 50 units, not 100 units in each of the housing authority, or the housing, what are they called? Districts, overlay districts. They recommended 50 in all three of the districts, not 100. And we have done a great job at what I guess they call Cumberland Meadows. I call it Hawthorne Court because it's a big cul-de-sac. And that's a good model to follow. It's 30 units. It's a compact. It doesn't impact anybody around it. It's, because it's a cul-de-sac. It's affordably priced. And I don't see why we couldn't repeat something like that somewhere in town, not necessarily on the ball fields, but somewhere in town, and designate specific percentage of those to be for asylum seekers and for veterans, and maybe a certain percentage for seniors. But something this large I don't think is appropriate, and I really don't think we should continue with the current proposal that was given to us by this one company. Thank you.
Thank you.
please.
I want real applause there. I'm done. Hi, I'm Cindy Dexter, and my family's lived here for about 30 years. We used to live on Hemlock Drive, and now we live on Wyman Way. I have only 2 points that I'm going to make about my opposition to the housing project. I want you to know that I am not opposed to affordable housing. I gave my medical career at Maine Medical Center to take care of immigrants and people of poverty. We need affordable housing, absolutely. People deserve to have a place to live. However, I am very concerned about the density and the location of this project. Living on Wyman Way, we know that our road is being used as a cutoff for the rest of the town, and this includes construction vehicles, commercial vehicles going to the brush dump. It includes buses that aren't servicing our neighborhood. Of course, the bus storage facility is right here. It includes service workers. It is a thoroughfare of large trucks and vehicles. I can't imagine what it's going to be like with a big construction project going on up here for our children and our families, and I can't imagine what it's going to be like with 107 more households. And Mr. Shane, I am sorry to bring this up, but I want to quote you. You said that nobody wants the kids crammed into that space. That's why we have to leave the Little League fields. I'm quoting you, you just said that. Why do we want to cram 107 families in there if we can't even play softball there? It's too much density. The families don't deserve that either. If they're moving to Cumberland, can't we give them some rural feel and not put 107 families on this little property that we don't even think is sufficient for our kids to play a Little League game? Well, that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I am Jodie Mosier. I live in Village Green on Reed Lane off of Wyman Way. I'm not nearly as eloquent probably as everybody else here, but I can only say that I am also very opposed to this project occurring in this location. I'm well aware of the need for affordable housing, and I learned much from the presentations, today about the importance of that and how it is affecting our community here. And I am fully in support of affordable housing, but I do not think this is the right location. In speaking of the traffic through Drown Road, I would like to add that when there is a closure for some reason on Tuttle Road, or when when there's a traffic light issue, which doesn't happen a lot, but when that area is closed, there's a huge increase in the traffic we already have coming through Drown Road. So I have always noticed that particular pattern. And I was one of the original residents who purchased in Village Green. It is true that there were promises that were made by the town to help maintain the character of that neighborhood. And this project, in my opinion, will completely destroy the character of that town, of that neighborhood, without really any thought to the impact on the people who live there already. The town, these baseball fields for my son and his friends have been a place they can meet and play, where they can easily come together and meet. It's in a location, an area that is easy for kids to congregate, and although it is small, it is an important part of the character of this particular neighborhood and and this particular town. And the other piece that I have not heard anybody mention is the impact on the town trails and that whole system. Those trails are used extensively by our town members, and there has been no
even discussion about what cramming that complex and parking lots is going to do to the nature of that very protected, beautiful space that is used widely by our community. So I think that's 2 minutes, 26 seconds. I've not exceeded my time, but that's, I think, what I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Bill Dexter, and I share a domicile with Cindy at 89 Wyman Way. Echo a couple of thoughts that I think are worth repeating, and this is around transparency. And I have to observe that the transparency here from our town council has been lacking, in my opinion. And 2 points on that. One is that I guess this process has been going on for a couple of years, and yet 2 years have gone by, and nobody has thought to engage the Village Green neighborhood, which is why we're out here in force tonight. So I don't want to pile on, from Village Green. But come on, is that really how a small town should behave? And I would suggest not. I think that I would ask my town councilors to do better. To that end, I did send an email a couple of days ago, and I only got one reply from the town council. So I know you got it, but I only got one reply. Again, I would ask you, as a constituent, that you all do better, because I think we deserve that. So I'm a little miffed about the process, as you can tell. My neighbors have, I think, eloquently spoken to the impact, but I have a couple of points more. The first is, if we need new ball fields, great, I'm all for new ball fields, but we have 2 of them, so we only need to build 2 more somewhere else and maybe refurbish them a little bit. So I think maybe we could, that's, to me, is kind of a specious argument for this. The other thing is that I would agree with the gentleman who suggested that maybe we don't really have all the finances in front of us. Again, there's that transparency thing. It's wonderful, Bill, that we're going to have these meetings in the 2 months leading up to the vote on March 5th. But again, why are we just getting to this at the end of the day? Because to myself and many of my neighbors, this feels like we're getting railroaded by a number of the councilors who have taken this project on and have decided that this is what's going to happen. So that's why I titled my email to you, "Please hit pause." I think that we need more information. The developer's own documents accede to the fact that they're making these recommendations based on limited information. There was no traffic study. There's been really no environmental impact. The financial implications haven't really fully been worked out. I do look forward to more information at those meetings. Hopefully I'll be one of the 100 that get a seat at the table. All right, 3 minutes, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Hi, thank you for having us have some public comment. I actually was on the Affordable Task Force, and so when I look at this project and what has come out here.
Can you just say your name
Oh,
for the
I'm
record?
sorry.
That's fine.
Gail,
I know you,
Gail,
but yes.
Gail Witherell.
Thank you.
First of all, you all know land is very expensive. And so when you want to build an affordable project, you need land, and that land has to be affordable. And the town happened to have some land. And so that was one reason we looked at this area. You cannot build affordable housing if the housing you're going to build already sits on land that's already $1 million, and then you're trying to make housing that is going to be, something that somebody with an AMI of 60% can afford to rent. So that's one comment. There aren't many places in this community that there's land. If you want to give us some, do it. Because diversity in income here, I think, is very important. look at all the jobs you mentioned, our police, we have EMTs, et cetera. We need people that will come here, and I think what better way to make our town attractive than to have some rental housing that they might be able to move into? You know, I understand the concerns in the neighborhood, and I know that needs to be worked through. I happen to be on Candlewick Lane, and we have lots of discussions about the traffic to Valhalla and how they cut through. They don't go down to Valhalla Road, they cut through our neighborhood. You know, I get it when you say people are cutting through and trying to avoid the light and all that sort of stuff. Yes, those things have to be addressed. But if we want to seriously look at having a diverse economic, and these folks aren't, I mean, this is middle income. This is not people that have no money at all and are not making any money. So I hope that we can look at this and realize that there's so many things here that work against providing affordable housing in this community. We need the land. We need a willing developer. And you know, things are rough for developers right now, I believe.
Isn't it true that you recommended 50 units at that site?
We did, but it's, you know, it's, at the time, we were just looking at the number of units we thought was needed in the whole community. And for affordable housing, we have very few rentals in this community. So anybody trying to rent anything, you know, it's not existent. And so we were spreading it out. You know, now we've lost the 55 and over project that was on Route 1. You know, that's too bad, because that was something that we were hoping would happen. Am I over? Oh, gee. Oh, sorry. Because of
Sorry,
funding.
excuse me, yeah.
He just,
Hey, we can't have
Yeah, okay,
crosstalk.
sorry.
If somebody has a comment
Yeah,
in front of the
okay.
microphone,
You
no,
can-
you're fine. I understand. I
yeah.
think, just to be clear, as
Yeah.
part of this, I think that's one of the reasons we want to have more workshops, because they're more natural and organic, that we can have back and forth dialogue. But just for purposes of public comment, for folks at home trying to listen, I think maybe it makes sense to just have you address your
yeah,
comments.
and so those are a couple points that I wanted to address, and I guess I'm 5 minutes. Did I do that?
Thank you, Gail.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ron Bancroft. We've lived in the town just short of 40 years, just down Tuttle Road. And I'm new to this. Gosh, I haven't been in here in years. And it harkens back to probably days when I was on the school board, Bob. And I just want to say I appreciate what you are doing up here as the town council, because it's not an easy piece. It's clearly not an easy piece. I much appreciated what we heard from Bill Shane. I learned a lot. I thought I knew something about affordable housing, but I learned a lot more from Bill. And when he said that there are only 8 units of affordable housing in this town now, for sale, that's unbelievable and unacceptable. That's not public policy that we want to support in this town. That's not why I moved to this town. We support people being able to live in this town. So, what the nice thing that I've heard tonight, is that everybody here supports affordable housing. I have heard no one who doesn't support affordable housing. That's terrific. That must mean that we can move forward. Now, I'm not naive about how difficult it is moving forward, because we've heard about some of the concerns, even for those who support affordable housing. But we need affordable housing. And I think Gail Witherill made a very good comment, which is that we have to take advantage of what land we have if we're going to make it affordable. So we all have to kind of step up, right? If we believe in this town and what we're doing, we have to step up and get beyond the neighborhood issue and get to the town issue. And the town issue is affordable housing, and I'm for it too.
Thank you very much.
My name is Reverend Allison Smith, and I serve the Congregational Church in Cumberland, United Church of Christ, around the corner. I am so thrilled by this project. The vision is beautiful. One of the things we're facing in our community is an epidemic of loneliness. And this project is beautiful. It has families living near seniors. It enables people who are serving our community to come and live. I don't want to be part of a community where only millionaires live. And one of the things that I know, I'm hearing the concerns from folks on Village Green and Drown Road. I'm hearing that. And what I think is so great is these workshops are going to give the counselors and leaders a chance to work through the legitimate questions you're raising. So this is so good. This is going to help us come together and use our best minds together to think through the problems and think through the solutions to make this work. Because, as Gail said, we can't, as I understand it, create affordable housing without land that is available. And these folks and so many other folks have been looking for the land. And it's been going on for years. This land has so much potential because it's within walking distance, and it does allow people to connect, families, seniors. So I just encourage all of you to go to the Valhalla meetings, because this will help us as a community use our best minds, our best hearts, all of our compassion, all of our thinking to help us move forward, because we don't want to be in a community that is only millionaires. And that is what I understand that. But for people who are coming in, they can't come in. They cannot come in.
Let's try to not have the
Sorry.
crosstalk as well. Yeah,
And
thank you.
so I guess what I would want to leave us with is I know many times it's, we all do it. It's just we think about our own needs, and that is so important. It's so important to take care of ourselves and our families. But also, this is a time of the year when we are invited to widen our hearts a bit wider, and especially to care for neighbors who don't have as much as we have been gifted with. And so I just invite us to, I know there's a lot of emotion and a lot of feeling here, but I invite us to take a deep breath and seek to widen our hearts, that we may be a welcoming place truly. It's easy to say, let's put it somewhere else. It's the hard work to do to make it happen. This is an opportunity for us as a community to make it happen and not put it off. To make affordable housing happen means we have to make choices now and act now.
Thank you very much.
All right. Janice Walding, West Cumberland. I always said I would never speak at one of these things when I'm angry. I am so angry. I am so tired of being told, those of us who are terrified of losing our homes because taxes keep increasing, that we should just open our hearts to welcome other people to our community. You're asking me to give up my home, her home, his home, so other people can come into our community. I am not opposed to affordable housing. I am not opposed to affordable housing on Drown Road. 107 units, and note the two additional building pads, folks. I am opposed to the process. I am opposed to the infighting that's happened on the town council. I am opposed to people not caring about people who make below the median income in this town. I cry when I'm angry, sorry. This is not about NIMBY, not in my backyard, despite the turnout from Drown Road. People have come multiple meetings and poured their hearts out to you that they are afraid of losing their homes, of not having the futures that we've worked for. I bought my house 7 years ago, and I'm already at the point where I don't know if I can stay or how long I'll be able to stay. I paid $220,000 for my house. Not wealthy. I wouldn't qualify for this housing, by the way. It's not about affordable housing in Cumberland. This is why I should not speak when I'm angry. You could have put forward a proposal for affordable housing, Drown Road, Stiles Way, Chase's Pit, that didn't impact the schools at all. Could have been senior housing only. There's pluses and minuses of that. Mercy Hospital, 1 bedrooms and studio apartments. You'd attract seniors, singles, young professionals starting out with a limited, if any, impact on the school and on taxes. That was not even considered. Mike Eads sat here in the discussion. I was here for the workshop. I'm extremely disappointed that Tyler was not here and we didn't get to hear about the actual project. All we've gotten to hear is your defense of why there should be one. Tyler said in that workshop, whatever you build will help. If it's senior-only housing, it will help. You should build whatever is right for your community, and whatever that is will help. Mike Eads talked about the condos. There's a 125-person waiting list, something, give or take, for those condos, and could we put those on there? Of course, Mike, we could do that. Nothing is off the table. Then you put forward an RFP, which, shocking, is exactly the project that Westbrook Housing has put forward, which includes families. I am not opposed to affordable housing. I'm not. I'm not opposed to families. I think it's great. What I am opposed to is you increasing the taxes and the pressure and not taking responsibility for the school budget, for the school crowding, and causing us harm. Harm. Not stress, harm. The people who live under the median income in this town are being harmed. And you're telling us, this is great, we need to be a welcoming community. Well, you are not welcoming us. You, don't mean to point, and others have referred to us as disingenuous for being concerned about school crowding. We have been called unwelcoming. We have been called provincial, that we don't want other people to move into this town. And nothing is further from the truth. We want to stay in our homes. It's not a case of not in my backyard. It's I want to keep my damn backyard.
Kevin Belvin, living along Woods Road, been here, Cumberland, North Yarmouth since 1990, I think. First off, you can turn that thing off. The fact that you only listen to your constituents for 5 minutes on a topic that is this complicated and this huge impact to our community is frankly disgusting, disingenuous, and shows that you actually do not care. You say you care, but the actions speak louder than words. You have zero business moving forward with this project, zero. There's one RFP, one person said, hey, we can come and build it for you. That's ludicrous. Reason is, you can't even provide basic oversight of our most important town service, and that's public safety. You hit the nail on the head. We're down 2 cops. We're down 2 paramedics. We are not safe because of that in this town. I do not feel safe in this community when our cops and firefighters are running forced all the time and short on sleep and short on their abilities to do their jobs. Currently, Cumberland Fire is short 2 full-time firefighters, and multiple are looking to leave. There's 1 deputy chief. Your study 3 years ago said we needed 3. Why is there only 1? Why is this important? Well, there are currently 13 forces for this month, 21 forces to start the brand new year of 2024 for our awesome firefighters and paramedics up at the station there. Eads isn't here. I was going to talk about some forcing and what that does to morale. And we all saw in the news that the corrections deputy that was forced onto a reverse shift and then killed somebody on their way home because they were short-staffed. What are you doing about it? You know, hiring is an issue. Falmouth's got 32 full-time firefighters. No problem over there. Why are we short? What have you done? Nothing. I know this because we have a medic ready to go. Ready to go. Get on that ambulance and ready to go. But the town council won't publicly state that they support that firefighter, that paramedic, and their individual right, my body, my choice, right to choose. It's disgusting. Disgusting. Shame on all of you for not publicly stating your support for that individual. So, if you can't provide effective oversight to the most important town department, why are you here? Why should I trust any of you to provide oversight to a building construction project when you have shown you can't keep us as safe as possible? You can't do it. So why are we building something? Where is your ability to look at the larger picture in all of this? Our town is ripping itself apart because we all listen to you, not you individually, you all, the government structure of we're going to dropping enrollment in our school system. We can close these 2 schools, no problem. And now we're here because of you. What have you done to fix it? These first world upper middle class parents can't stand that their child is in a modular classroom. And this is a quote from our public community. This is disgusting. No child should have to get their feet wet to go get lunch. That's a reason? Honestly, that's a reason on our town website, our community page, on a reason we need a new school. Little Johnny's can't get his feet wet. Meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and save those kids on electric buses, where third world kids are mining those rare earth metals for those batteries. That's so nice. You won't say crap about the billions and trillions, and this is everybody in this room, wasted on illegal wars, money that's being directly funneled away from all of your children's futures. But hey, how many 80 gray roads can we spend with the billions and trillions of dollars over Ukraine with 500,000 people dead? That's really nice. I'm glad my taxpayers are going over there. But golly, there's a questionable book in the library. Let's get all our friends there. We'll all line up and stand and holler about all the bigots in this town. Frankly, none of you deserve a new school in this town. None of you. None of you deserve this building project because we can't adequately oversight the things and the necessities in this town to begin with. You're biting off way more than you can chew. It's clearly evident. And I'll leave it with this last point. Thank God I didn't die in that illegal war for this ignorant, apathetic, elitist public citizenry.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes.
Bruce Sherwin, Blanchard Road again. Just so everybody knows, I'm not opposed to affordable housing. I am opposed to the way it's being financed. It's going to cost us money as property taxes the way this is being done. That's what I'm against, not affordable housing. So I would like to ask if I could not have this put against my time. I would like to ask Mr. Shane to, first of all, I'd say, Mr. Shane, you said you're not sure what everybody's afraid of. We're afraid of taxes, property taxes. We are afraid of them. Some of us are not that make enough money, but many of us are. I would like to ask you, Mr. Shane, to present to us what you did to the joint meeting on what this is going to do to Cumberland's property taxes. And if you don't want to, I will. But I would like it not to count against my time also. Would you like to do that?
Are you talking about the new school?
The 250 per 100,000 speech that you made at that meeting.
Right, and that project is no longer on the table.
No,
That-
that's what you said, and they were talking about what, the project that they're doing now at that meeting.
Okay, that's, one, it's not really germane to this discussion, but two,
Well, it's
that
property
project was
taxes.
for the 80 Gray Road project of a much larger proportion than the one that's being proposed now.
That was a dead issue at that meeting. I don't agree with you. That isn't the impression I had.
Because I don't know, I haven't been given specifically the new number for the new building. We were kicking around numbers that were 80 to 85 million for 80 Gray Road, and that was going to be a significant, almost $2.50.
Why did you say that at that meeting if it was irrelevant then? That puzzles me.
I did say it.
You did say it. You did talk about it.
I did say it was $2.50 on the mill rate if we continued down that path with the $80 to $90 million school.
Yeah, well.
That has now been changed.
Okay, well, as that is an example then, $250 per 100,000 on a $400,000 adds $1,000 to your taxes. That's what we're facing. The point is, maybe not so much the money because it's estimates, but what the point is, we're going to be faced with that, folks, when that school comes, and we don't need the property taxes that this project is going to bring to us added on top of it. Now, Scarborough, they've done a good job with their TIF money. They've actually dropped their property taxes for residents the last 2 years, I believe. Do you agree with that, Mr. Shane?
I read the same article.
Yeah, it was an article in the Portland Press Herald. So that's what TIF money is for, to develop economics in the town. We don't have them. We don't have them helping us on our tax base. It's designed to bring in economic growth to help on the tax rate, get companies paying more taxes and residents pay less. That's not happening here. This is not a town to finance affordable housing with TIF money. It's not. And another couple of things. Some of the problems you got with, like the Village Green here and Tuttle Road. Tuttle Road's going to have more problems when if the new school's put on that campus. And we've got this ocean view thing across the way that's going to have people. Tuttle Road is bad already and headed for getting worse. And regardless of what's going through Village Green, and I agree with that Village Green concept. Those roads are way too narrow for that stuff, for the traffic that's going to come. Again, I've said this before in a previous meeting. Affordable housing, I'm against the financing, but I also think that it's possible to think of it, this is not the right town or the right time. We already have a lot of problems to solve in this town. We don't need more tax-wise. Because when you have problems, you have to pay for them. And we're going to pay for them. I just don't think it's the right time. And I think towns that have better services like cities, if you read the paper, Westbrook, South Portland, and Auburn have all either completed or are working on affordable housing projects. Those towns have the services needed for them. We don't have mass transit, for one thing. These things are going to be new services we have to pay for by property taxes. So I'm sorry if I'm a little too blunt or a little too, I don't know, direct about it, but this is going to be a problem for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Young, Hedgerow. A couple things. I had a whole nother thing to read, but after hearing Bill's deal on TIFs and meetings, I got to tell you, I find it kind of interesting. Bill knows this. Bill and I have had a few conversations over the years on TIFs, and he's helped me quite a bit understand things. And I've learned quite a bit on my own. The state development director and I are on a first-name basis. I find it interesting, any more conversation on TIFs would be in kind of a backroom thing. I think it's really hard for people to understand it. I've been at it for 4 years now, and I can't say that I totally get everything, but I keep trying to learn. And to try to bring people in to, and have private sittings with people who are promoting this whole concept, I think is disingenuous. And I think the only way you can be transparent is to have any conversations about this in the open. So that's how I feel about that. The other thing, our group that has been looking over the fact sheets that were put out found a couple of errors and flaws in the paperwork. I'm not going to go into them now, but I find that if you're looking through the paperwork that the project papers were put out, that there's some real mistakes in there. And once we get the real facts and the real costs for this, then we'll be glad to come out and make a statement about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please.
Christina Mitchell, Cumberland. I just want to make a few points. Speaking for myself, I am a school board member, but I am not speaking for the school board. I want to say that there's been a lot of talk about the land, find other land. I can say as a school board member, we looked ourselves for other land, and there just really isn't a lot of land, certainly not very affordable. That's one point I wanted to make. And myself, this land that was chosen as possible siting, to me, it's tucked in, it's close to the town center. It wouldn't be isolating for people. If there were kids, they could walk to town. That wouldn't impact buses, and there wouldn't be more buses because of that. Also want to make the point, I totally hear the concerns about traffic through people's neighborhoods. I get that. I'm very fortunate. I live on a cul-de-sac road, so we don't have that. And that would be a problem because the kids do play right in the middle. I just feel myself, I trust that the town council is very aware of that, and they're willing to listen in other meetings. So hopefully you'll find solutions, whether it's make them cul-de-sac roads or speed bumps or whatever. I think you'll pay attention to that because you want to honor their concerns. I do want to make one point. As facilities committee chair for the school board, I just want to point out, it's been pointed out during school board meetings, but the option to look at a possibility of building a school on campus is another option. We have not closed off the possibility of 80 Gray Road. They're very different, the two, but we don't know enough yet. We don't know the cost or anything of the one possibility on campus. But that's what's being proposed. It's not negating the, sorry, I can't see you over there. It's not negating the other options. So they're both on the board now. We have more options. Last thing I just wanted to say, on another note, I am a Wyman. My ancestors were Wymans who were here. And on that note, I want to point out that we're all new at some point, and I know that my Wyman branch left about almost 300 years ago because they couldn't afford to stay here. So there are a lot of reasons to consider options for people who want to stay here. New people who need homes and people who want to stay here. So on that note, I will just finish with those that came from the Wyman Way area, that whole neighborhood. Every house from the corner where the church is all the way to the railroad tracks. Welcome to Wyman land.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to address this agenda topic? Okay, seeing none, we will close public, well, I guess I would accept a motion from anybody to close public discussion on that and move towards council deliberation on it.
So move.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those to move to council deliberation on it?
What's that?
All those to just move from public comment on this to council deliberation on the topic.
Sorry, I didn't
Yeah, that's
hear.
okay. Unanimous. Okay, so thank you to everyone from the public who provided comments. Those are very helpful. Is anyone on the council, would you like to start with your thoughts here? Anyone?
I have prepared remarks that I would like to share.
Okay.
But anyone else can go first before, if they choose.
Want to toss a coin?
I have an enormous headache from experiences of the last couple days, so I have prepared my remarks for tonight. In the last 2 weeks, I have had my integrity questioned by counselors who support this measure. One called into question 2 decisions that may have been perceived as conflict of interest. Neither involved a town council vote. For those of you who don't know me, I have family in 27 homes in Cumberland. There are 5 homes belonging to family ages 70 to 90. In my generation, there are 11 homes. And in my children's generation, there are also 11 homes. All are taxpayers to the tune of over $250,000 annually in property taxes. That said, I would challenge anybody to find a decision I have made in the last 17 and a half years that favored my family over citizens. Yes, I am enormously proud of my family, but I serve the citizens of the town as if they are my family and try, not always successfully, to treat others as I would like to be treated. A colleague challenged me for not supporting the Rail to Trail initiative, claiming I rallied support for my viewpoint. The facts are, after meeting and learning about the project from Martha Leggett, I originally supported it until my neighbors, some of whom, but not all, are family. They had questions and concerns they felt were being disregarded by the process. I did what I thought was in their interest, including testifying to the legislature. I remain less against the trail than I am for the protection of personal property rights. You'll see why I mentioned this in a couple minutes. This weekend, when I learned that a counselor was soliciting people to come support the project, my integrity was again called into question. This concern was brought to my attention by a citizen. It was not my concern. What I learned was at the August vote for the RFP, which I opposed, the room was packed with supporters encouraged by said town councilor. Again, my relationship with the public are diverse and varied. I agree with some and not others. I have encouraged people to attend council meetings, but I can't recall ever rallying residents to come support me on my agenda items. I believe town business should be conducted in the full light of day and strive for transparency, and I wish we had more public information and participation. I spoke with this counselor yesterday to share the citizens' concerns and to ask if I might have a copy of the emails he had sent out. He refused and then went on to attack me for my association with the Cumberland North Yarmouth Taxpayers Advisory Group, asking me if I would share my correspondence. Absolutely. This group is really trying to change exactly what is happening here tonight, where some residents are trying to pit us against each other. I think and hope I have been helpful to the group. I was honored to be invited to join them. I believe in their mission of civic education and transparency. As of tonight, I have shared all text correspondence between myself and one other member of the advisory group with the entire council and the advisory group. I have shared all email correspondence with our town attorney in the event that this information be FOIA'd. Not because the group has anything to hide. Their mission is the opposite. She can be the one who decides how to protect individual citizens. I have no secrets and nothing to defend in my association with them. In the full interest of transparency, I also shared an entire Facebook Messenger thread among people who are likely here or watching. But again, I don't have the right to share private information. Do I think I have the right to share information with the public? Yes, as does any counselor on this board. But I do not think it is in our council's best interest to actively go out and drum up support in this manner. Oh, sorry. I have had questions and concerns about this project since it was proposed. There are concerns brought to light in our very own commissioned housing report in June of this year that I feel are being dismissed. For example, 1,122 households in Cumberland live on annual incomes of less than $10,000 a year. 385 households live on $50,000 or less a year, and 88 households live in poverty. Let that sink in for a second. It is illogical to think that these families who are living paycheck to paycheck, trying to build equity and support their families are going to choose to live in these apartments. It has been frustrating to me to be unable to communicate this paradox to my fellow councilors. It is wrong to increase the taxes of citizens who are already paying more than 5% and likely closer to 8% of their income in property taxes in order to support this project. It has been assumed that people who oppose this project are afraid. I will challenge that narrative. I taught middle school age children in this community for 34 years, 38 overall. I embraced inclusiveness before it was even a thing, having 2 students with significant special needs in my 6th grade classroom in the 80s, way before I had a child of my own with similar needs. I taught about culture and religion over 3 decades, always encouraging my students to develop their own opinions and support them on current and world events. I taught about the Palestinian conflict and apartheid in the 90s and until I retired. Just before retiring, I created an additional unit of study for 7th graders centered around the United Nations global goals. To assume that in any shape or form I am afraid of diversity would be wrong. My own extended family is an example of diversity: racial, ethnic, religious, intellectual, physical, gender, and socioeconomic diversity. I am proud of that. You have heard that there is a wait list for the senior condos at Hawthorne Court. Of course there is. They are beautiful, low-rent units operated by the Cumberland Housing Authority. What you haven't heard is the affordable senior units at the former Drown Road School struggle to maintain full capacity. Tonight we have heard that we should have more units for singles. What our June housing study told us is there's not much difference between affordable single units and market rate single units. And the 96 apartments at Cumberland Foreside Village have an annual turnover of 20%, so there is often availability there. There is no doubt Maine has a housing crisis. In fact, the Cumberland Town Council has actually been visionary in addressing this crisis for at least the last 2 decades, and even before my service to the town with the creation of Crossing Brook. We have approved at least 3 contract zone agreements that led to the construction of over 100 affordable homes and scores of apartments. Unfortunately, we did not have a crystal ball to see that those homes would only be affordable to first-time buyers. Nor do our newer counselors see that some of this work has already been done. I do not have answers to the housing crisis. I have thought about it a great deal. I have done a lot of reading and researched. I learned that the most affordable place for seniors is in their homes. I learned that 70% of Mainers, 70%, could not afford to buy their own homes again if they went on the market today. And I know that applies to Cumberland. I just don't think this is Cumberland's problem to solve right now, considering the impact on current taxpayers, which in large measure is still unknown. I think your counselors with such passions need to get to the legislature and advocate and testify for statewide and national solutions. I think they need to advocate for relief for graduating college students who have debt more than or nearly equal to a mortgage, so less of their income goes to college loan interest. We have a lot of young people in our community, and they're figuring out their way. You may have heard that only the rich can afford to live here. That's not true. There are young people living with extended families, and while that's the norm in some cultures, we tend to think it's a curse. There are young people sharing apartments or building what they can afford to build equity for a future dream. 25% of our students are in K through 2, which alone challenges the narrative that young families can't afford to live here. Many of those families are feeling the relief of not having to pay child care, which is another area where counselors could get involved to help our community. Cumberland has far surpassed growth, that's residential growth, than the rest of the state, and yet 13% of that growth are people 22 to 44. These are not likely all independently wealthy people, but more likely dual-income families living paycheck to paycheck and hopefully investing in 401ks while they're at it, so you can stop worrying about whether or not there will be Social Security. Finally, I would like to defend the work of the manager. There are many times he and I have disagreed. I'm better for it. It may look like he is pushing this project, and while he may personally favor this project, I need you to know that under our form of government, he is doing what he perceives is the will of the council. That is his job. It has not been an easy task for him in the last year and a half as larger societal forces become more involved in local governance, but he is and remains passionate about our community. Thank you.
Well said.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you,
worked.
Bob.
Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you.
You probably should have gone first. Tough to follow.
Now I'm going to get that drink of water.
How do you follow up that?
I won't try to, are you leaving?
I think she's
She
grabbing
needs a
some
water.
water.
Hydration. Key.
I won't try to be as eloquent or as lengthy as you are, but I think that it goes without saying that, the longevity of people on this board, longevity of people in this community is not to be discounted. And that are valuable assets. And, we've had people who served on the Board of Appeals for 30 years, and I think there's been members on the planning board that have exceeded 20 years, and certainly a lot of other committees where people have extended their time and efforts, and the town has been a better place for it. This has been an issue that has been in front of me since I came on this board. I've had a concern, and I can remember probably the first day that I was here. I said I wasn't here to just warm my chair. I was here to take some action or to encourage action. And I remember that Bill Stiles was chair, and he accommodated my concerns, and within the first couple of months we had a discussion about senior housing, nursing home care, extended care, end-of-life care, and we actually brought people in to bring that discussion to the whole council at the time. And one of the things that we've come to realize is that a lot of what I would like to see happen is probably unattainable today, and it's a goal that I'm not going to stop putting efforts into. So out of the my time here on the council, I've felt an urge to to entertain affordable housing and see what that led to. And I asked the council for a committee to be formed to study that. It was a unanimous decision, not without reservations, that we would form a committee of volunteers to study the issue, and out of that study came a report that was delivered unanimously, and again, not without reservations and not without concerns. And that's something that happens all the time. So where we are tonight is we have a concrete proposal before us, and yes, it has only been delivered by one prospective developer. It's kind of like looking at putting a job out to bid and you only get one bidder, but you do get a bidder, and it's our obligation to look at that and analyze it and determine whether it's a good bid or not bid, and move ahead with it or reject it. And we have a good proposal here. We have a well-qualified developer who has the horsepower, the talent, the background, the right people to see this through. And I stand ready this evening tonight to move ahead with that memorandum of understanding, and notwithstanding, understand that there is a lot of pieces that need to be worked out in regards to a formal build-out if that does occur. And certainly, I've heard enough from the residents that are in close proximity to that there are things that need to be addressed, and those are things that will not be just swept under the rug. The concerns about cost, who's going to pay what, all those questions will be answered. It's not. It is not just a rubber stamp for us to say tonight we're going to move forward with a memorandum of understanding, and that's the end of it. And frankly, I think that by putting this out to the voters, it's an opportunity for the community to voice where they want to go with this. There is I understand not in my backyard. I understand that traffic is concerned. I remember when they put a street light in Cumberland, I was incensed. What's happened to my town? We're putting a street light up here? I remember when Drown Road, when the council at the time wanted to sell the land to a developer, and at that time I said no. And I came down here and jumped up and down and said that, no, I don't support that. So time passes, and sometimes our perspective changes. And certainly as I've aged, my perspective has changed also. No development is good development was my mantra for years. And frankly, it really hasn't changed, but sometimes when you look at it from a different point of view, we need affordable housing. We need to provide an opportunity for young families, elderly people, and singles, married, whatever, to have an opportunity to buy or live or rent in a community such as our own. We know that wealthy people will buy up everything that they can in this town, and they'll come in here, and that's what people do. I don't begrudge them for it. People take opportunities as they can. People who invest in the stock market, who are smarter than I, do well at it. People that have businesses that thrive, they invest in it, they take losses, they win at it. And this is an opportunity for this community to make a change, make a difference. Yes, I agree with a lot of what Shirley says. And, we want seniors to stay in their home because it is cost effective. But at the end of the day, when a senior moves out of their home, they're not selling it to another group of seniors. It's being sold to a younger couple. More often than not, they have a family. That's the nature of turnover. Would I like to see multi-generational housing? I'd like to see multi-generational housing in my own house. It's not likely to happen. I'm not sure my children like me that much. But I think that I had asked our former town councilor to come here this evening and just talk about the survey the town came out with. she had a sick individual in her family. So, but she did write something, and so I guess I'm gonna close with what she said, and I'll leave it at that. A little over a year ago, we conducted a community survey, and in the response, there was a clear majority support and recognition that affordable housing was needed in our community. However, that doesn't mean we blindly pursue an end objective. In fact, dissenting perspective is what leads us down the path of the market assessment, which is tremendously valuable to understand the direct need in our town and available supply of affordable housing in surrounding communities. Dissenting views are not only important to voice opposition, but to ensure that a majority view is listening to varying perspectives and ideas and making the end answer better than it would have been if formed by a bunch of like-minded individuals. I'm very proud and impressed by the methodical manner in which this council has pursued this path. It would have been easy to just jam this through a year ago as a majority vote was on the council. However, the council listened to the appropriate ask by dissenting views to gather more information and specifically limit the size of the developer. I'm confident that the past behavior of this council is indicative of its future, and I support the continued process the council is looking to pursue this evening. I apologize that she might be patting us on the back because I don't think any of us deserve a pat on the back, but I think we all deserve that we all have a common goal to provide affordable housing in this community, and that we are working for a common objective to make this a better place to live, not just for us, but other people who may come here in the future. I'll look forward to people calling me, meeting me on the street, and voicing their concerns, their approval and their disapproval, because I think that's important to hear from all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Councilor Douglas.
Bill, well, first of all, thanks for everyone that came out. It's really helpful just to hear different vantage points and understand different points of view. You know, some of the topics brought up regarding traffic are super important that we address right out the gate. As these conversations progress, you know, whether they are trending towards it happening or not, it's good to understand in general as that piece of property, whether it becomes affordable housing or we transition it into something else down the line. I think these are things that we should be looking at from the very beginning. One of the things, Bill, I wanted to ask you to just kind of set some clarity on is when we enter a memorandum of understanding, what does that mean for us? Like, can you help?
Not much.
Yeah, but help us understand. I think it's helpful for everybody to understand. What does that mean for us?
What we've explained to the developer is that essentially he's going to be our dance partner, basically up to the referendum. That we're not going to take his ideas, his designs, his what he's presented to us, and shop it to somebody else to say, hey, can you do this for us? Or, hey, can you cut some corners and maybe make this work? That's off the table. What we're going to do is get through the process, see what we come up with, and see what happens, after the referendum, after we've, kind of been able to come back with a lot of questions. And remember, this isn't a planning board process right now. The traffic and the drainage and the wetlands and all of that stuff still has to be basically brought forward by the developer to see if it's potential, and that's a whole different than what we're doing right now. We're just trying to get a project to the starting line, and if that happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But the MOU is essentially the green light to basically start the meetings at Valhalla. When I say there's 100, if it's 120 or 130, it doesn't matter. We're just trying to spread it out so you'd know how many people will be there, and you might want to go when there's a smaller crowd, or you might want to go when there's a big crowd. So that sign-up genius is very nice because you can see all that, and we get to make up name tags, because if you saw how I spell my name, you would never know what my name was. So I don't like the crayons that come out. We like to get those put out in front so people can get comfortable and start the hard work, because there's still a lot of questions that people have, and this is not a great venue for it. It really isn't. So I'm looking forward to that process, and I'm hopeful that everyone attends, and hope all the people that came tonight come as well. So it'll be online, I hope, tomorrow. Whitney's in the back of the room, so no pressure, Whitney. So.
I guess my other question would be, I think the biggest topic that I'm hearing right now is financials, which has obviously always been a large concern of, I think, all members of the council. So can you help me understand what does a timeline look like to really get a holistic picture? Because my concerns, obviously, I stand in support of affordable housing. I think all of us do. But to a lot of people's points, I think the financials are what is scary, right? Everybody is concerned. I'm concerned. I think that's number one. And number two, if not in tandem, is the school. So what does a realistic timeline look like to get financials? Like, where does that fall in the process of where we're headed? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a fair question, but it's when you look at, for instance, the subdivision you just approved.
Yeah.
We ask, okay, what is the cost for future maintenance of the road? What's the cost of snow plowing? What's the cost of trash removal? All the municipal services are being paid for by the developer in this case. So the real cost to us is what is the cost to educate each child that comes out of this. Now, this development is part of a very large TIF district, which generates a lot of money each year. And those monies have to be spent on eligible items that we put forward to the Department of Community Development. And those are the projects we listed earlier. The other costs that I'm struggling with are, okay, can you measure, what impact is going to be on the trails? Where are the trails going to be located? Can you measure, what impact the traffic will have? Because obviously, if we have to add traffic considerations to this project, that will change, the cost to the community. But beyond the reoccurring cost of education, it's hard to quantify how this project is going to impact us when it's all contained in a campus, essentially. And we'll work at that, and we'll come up with the cost. If we add a parking lot, for instance, that's a one-time cost. If we add a connecting road to Tuttle Road, that's a one-time cost that we'll have to bear. Because the more costs we put onto this development, the less affordable it becomes, and then it becomes market rate, and we really don't want to participate in a market rate project. The neat thing about this, with these bonds that the developer is acquiring, this project will be affordable for 45 years. And for that 45-year commitment, they essentially get the principal forgiven in these loans. So it is a very huge incentive to keep it affordable. So that's why it works for them, and it doesn't work for the average developer that is trying to build a housing project or a neighborhood project. They don't have access to those state and federal monies. But we will work, and we will basically turn over the rocks and internally look at what are the other costs. What are the costs of paramedics and police and those type of public services, and we'll try to quantify that as well.
Okay. I think that definitely having those before the first community meeting would be super helpful so people can come prepared.
Yep.
And then I guess my other question, just jumping back to the memorandum of understanding, is there any, obviously there's some fashion of legal binding there, but is there a financial binding if we enter that?
Well, in the RFP, if you remember, if basically we walk away and do nothing, the developer is paid $25,000 for his time and effort that he's put into date. And
Okay.
I would say he's probably exceeded that already, but
Okay.
that's what he's agreed to.
I thought that was 10,000.
I thought it was 25, but
Can I ask a follow-up to
Yeah.
one of Bailey's questions, Bill? I'm still learning, 18 years later, and I'm still learning. So we hear about cost per pupil a lot in schools. So I did our cost per resident, our town budget cost per resident, $6,600, just so you know, that's the number. If I took the number of citizens in Cumberland and divide it into our town budget, $6,600.
did you subtract the revenues?
Somewhere down the line, I would like you to explain to me why 100 more people is not going to cost us $660,000 more dollars or something, okay?
Sure.
Doesn't have to be tonight,
No.
but
I could do it, but I won't.
tell me where my logic is faulty, because.
And if that's the type of analysis you want, we can put that together. And it's very simple. It's very simple. But I would take the expenses minus the revenues and then do the cost per resident because it's very different. So,
Right.
But I will happy to do that and happy to show you the map.
Okay.
Out of curiosity, what was the number you were dividing back?
I took our total budget expenses,
Just expenses, not revenues?
just expenses, not revenue.
Okay.
Wait, Now I don't remember, because I did it a few weeks ago.
Well, you don't get a 6
I'll
when
get
you don't
back
do
to
that.
you.
Okay, if you
I'll
could get back to
to
me
you.
on that formula, that would be helpful.
I have to find my
Um,
math on one of my little tiny pieces of paper here.
Well, I'm a Deering guy and you're a Greeley girl, so it's not going to work for you.
That
so.
works. So as we move forward, one last question, or probably another that'll come up in my mind. Traffic patterns are obviously part of, I know I've heard the school board mention it a couple times, there'll be some studies done on, you know, if they do move to a one model campus, how the pickup and drop off will work, how the traffic patterns will flow there. Is it safe to assume, or is it already in the plans, that there'll be similar traffic studies done as it pertains to this space as
There
well?
will have to be when it goes to the planning board.
Okay. And will that be flagged to us in any fashion?
You will not have authority to approve it or disapprove it. That's under the purview of the planning board under our
Okay.
charter.
But
So they look at
abutters
that.
would be
Abutters
notified?
would be all notified within, I think it's within 500 feet now.
Okay.
And all those folks would know and could attend those meetings. And those traffic reports would be part of the planning board documents, which are public documents.
Okay. And then, I know there's been a lot of conversation about the ball fields. Someone earlier, I don't recall who said it, mentioned we had 2, and then, you know, I know there's been conversation about relocating, putting them in a new setup. If we didn't move forward with this, or it wasn't voted in via referendum, would we still be looking to move the ball fields? I'm under the,
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm under the impression, right, that it's exceeded capacity, right?
It's exceeded capacity because we have kids, both male and female, playing ball. And we're trying to develop both fields for young boys as well as girls that are playing softball. And those are conveniently on similar fields when, as you go through as they get older.
Okay.
So
would that, and sorry, everybody, I'm just like working through this in my brain. Is there a high flow of traffic from that? I don't have kids in Little League right now, so I
During
don't
games.
frequent the space.
You know, if you've been here at Town Hall on Friday evenings
Yeah.
or Saturdays, you see a lot of
Pretty
traffic
routine.
overflow that goes into the games. And it's cyclical, and, you know, the games get out every two and a half hours.
Okay.
And, yeah, there'll be a slug of cars coming in, a slug of cars coming out, and they're
Okay.
kind of cramming up onto Drown Road because there's just not enough parking. And there's not enough capacity, and we have too many kids playing sports, which is a good thing.
Okay. Thank you. Those are all my questions. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, please.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm a slow processor. I'm taking it all in. If anything, kind of at first blush, I think the one thing we can really agree on is that affordability is an issue. And, you know, when we think about kind of how we've gotten here, you know, we've been endeavoring to find solutions around affordability. I mean, the food pantry is busy. I know that from Bill Shane. We have heating assistance programs, but we also know that housing is, you know, really the number one cost. And so the 2009 comprehensive plan, the 2014 comprehensive plan, I mean, we've been trying to solve this problem since 2009. And regardless as to whether or not this project makes it to the next phase or not, affordability is still going to be a problem for people in this community. On that note, I would love to hear people's ideas and thoughts and concerns about affordability, just full stop. I do make an effort to have those dialogues. I attended the open forum of the taxpayer group to listen to those dialogues. I was there for over 2.5 hours. And that's really important to me, as well as other counselors, to hear those concerns. I think that part of this is that it's been in our comprehensive plan. We've done studies, and it's all been very theoretical. And now there's a plan. And probably my highlight of the year on the council has been some of these community meetings that we had at Valhalla to talk about traffic issues in neighborhoods, actually, around Hedgerow. And Kim Vine in the front row will recall being able, she's a driving instructor, by the way, so she has a lot of really great insight on traffic issues. But where I'm getting at is we were able to, as a group, brainstorm some really good solutions for neighborhoods. And I think that one of the positive things that we learned from those meetings is the benefit of coming together, sitting at tables where there's not necessarily a big dais in front of us. People don't have to go up to the mic and state their names, and, you know, kind of tapping into collaboration, cross-pollination of ideas, because those are the things that do make us a community, and that we, you know, kind of caring about our neighbors, which we all do, I think. As far as tonight goes, and the MOU, and kind of backtracking to the fact that we now have a tangible proposal in front of us, it behooves me to give it consideration because, you know, it's a robust option, but I think that we do need to do the due diligence, have these meetings, talk about these concerns together, and see whether it's good for us. I mean, there are going to be people who are in favor of exploring it more. There are going to be folks who are in favor of not exploring it anymore. I hear both groups, and I suggest that that's why ultimately that we feel like it's viable and it's feasible, then we put it on the ballot. It's a democracy. We let the people decide. I will stand by personally whatever outcome comes. I've heard that there's chatter online about nervousness that the town council would push something like this through. You can push me out the door. If the answer to this referendum is no, then I will not be pushing something through. Democracy and the public process is something that I imagine my other councilors have the utmost respect for. I think that's really, really important to clarify. So for me tonight anyway, I'd like to move on to at least the next phase to start even if it's not committing us to what did you say, Bill?
Dance partner.
To a dance partner. I am excited to have these dialogues. I hope we can all really come together and sit down as a community. I suspect that there is more that bring us together than divide us. That's always really been the case for me. So yeah, that's where I am tonight.
Thank you, Councilor. Follow-up?
Sorry, I just wanted to say on the record as well, to Tick's point, if this is a no at referendum, I will vote in favor of it not being pushed forward. I am in the same boat that you are, and I think the rest of us are there too. Thank you.
Well, if we want to clarify that, people that have called me or people I've emailed, I've spoken to, I would not even begin to think about overturning a public vote. Would that be clear?
Councilor Kopp, did you have a comment?
Just a couple of comments. No one on this council has anything to gain by approving this project. It's not a feather in our hat. It's for the greater good of the community. It's not who's rich, it's not who's poor. It's for the greater good of this community. I've sat up here for 17 and a half years. Shirley and I came on the same time. I want to talk about NIMBYism, Louis Grill on Main Street, Credit Union on Main Street, condos on Main Street, condos on Route 1, not in my backyard. All of these are things that nobody wanted in their neighborhood that we now have. Everybody seems to like them now. Let's let the process go forward. Let's let the people, the 84 or 8,600 people that live in this town, vote and tell us whether this is a good project or it's not a good project. There's not one of us that's sitting up here that thinks that this is the greatest project that ever came down the road. We think this is something that's needed in this community, and it's our responsibility to bring it forward to the public. And that's what we're doing tonight. We're not stuffing this down anybody's throat. We're not jamming it in anybody's neighborhood. We're asking the town of Cumberland if this is a feasible project. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Do you have another comment?
I would offer a motion if you were ready.
Sure.
I move to authorize the town manager to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Westbrook Development Corporation for the purpose of pursuing the affordable housing development set forth in their proposal dated November 2nd, 2023.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Is there any further discussion on that motion?
I just have two more spontaneous, less prepared remarks. One is, Tig, I think affordability's been an issue in our town way before 2009.
Wyman land?
Yeah. Ron and I both were first to get on the senior circuit breaker, which we were on with our Representative Moriarty. We wrote that legislation to help our seniors stay in town. So it's been an issue for longer than that. And I'm not against affordability, just like all of these people. I just don't think it's our problem to solve in this way at this time. I think, to Bob Vale's point, that we all have affordability in common, and I think I shared with you, I don't have affordability in common with you. I have sustainability in common with you, and that's where we differ in our opinions. What I see as sustainable is different than what you see as creating sustainability, and so that's why I am going to vote in opposition to this, consistent with my August vote.
Can you clarify what you mean by sustainability?
What's that?
Can you clarify by what you mean by sustainability?
Sustainability is a healthy, vibrant community with people of all ages and all backgrounds, from our farmers to our doctors, and we have that, and I want to sustain that.
I think we all have.
And I think how we go about that is where we're going to disagree.
Yeah.
And at what pace or what speed, and what is our responsibility in socially engineering that.
So we have a motion and we have a second, but before we call for a vote here, I just would like to say that this is a project that I am passionate about. It's not something I initially ran on. It's not, when I first ran for town council, I did talk about trying to broaden our tax base, bringing in more businesses, so that all of the burden, or a significant portion of that burden, did not fall on residential property taxes, right? So that we had a commercial base to help support some of the services that we need. We have been actively working on the council to increase the number of businesses in the town. There's also, for me, when we talk about sustainability, and I actually do share your concern here, when we talk about sustainability and we talk about affordability, I view the issue of whether your property taxes go up as one issue, i.e. it makes it more affordable for you to currently stay in your own house because your monthly payments don't go up as a result. That's one issue to me. The other issue is actually working to construct affordable housing. So even if the Cumberland Town Council said we're going to freeze our budget for the next 10 years and we're not going to raise taxes at all, that still doesn't create affordable housing as to what we're talking about here today. We're talking about housing that is at a multiple considerably lower than where market is, right? And so if the free market is what the standard is, the folks that we're trying to make sure that there's a home for them in our towns, from firefighters to police officers to EMTs to ed techs to all of the different individuals that we want to create this, from farmer to lawyer or doctor or whatever you said, the market is not currently providing for that. And so there are these tools and these bonds and these funding mechanisms that allow affordable housing to be constructed. And if it weren't for these tools, we as a community would not even be able to contemplate this, right? We wouldn't be able to do it. We would not. I've learned more in 2 years of working on this issue than I ever thought I would know. I didn't know anything about affordable housing when we first came onto the council. Full disclosure, I didn't. It's not my area. But the more I learned, I realized that the complexity of trying to find effectively free land, and I know it doesn't sound free, but it's owned by the town, right? So and find that land that's also on public water and public sewer, and the utilities are there where it's easy to access, where it's also close to town services that you need, where you also partner with a developer that has the resources and the capability and the horsepower to actually get the LIHTC credits that they need to be able to build this affordably. It's a complex process, and there's also a lot of emotional charge in it from folks, not only just that live close to the potential project, which I hear and I understand, but also just anyone in town that hears about this. I understand that. And so I'm starting to realize now why there is such a shortage of affordable housing in our state and in our region and in our country, because it's complex from a tax and a financing perspective, and it's also complex emotionally. And so I have learned a lot in this project, or in this process. I feel humbled by that, but I also feel like it's in the right interest of the community at large, and so I would like to see this move forward as well. Again, just for the MOU process to happen, and we all as a council have agreed one way or another that we want this to go to a referendum. We want the voters to decide, and if the voters come back and say, no, this is not what we want, then I will also stand by that decision, okay? So just so everyone is clear, we all on the council are on the same page as that. And so with that said, I don't know if there's any other follow-up or comments here before we call for a vote.
Move the question.
Okay. So the motion is on the table. All those in favor of that motion? Okay, we have 5 in favor and 1 against. Oh, excuse me, all those against, or opposed, I should say. Thank you. Yes, and I think we've been going for quite some time. We're going to take probably a 5-minute pause here, but thank you everyone for coming if you are leaving now, but we're just going to take a 5-minute recess and we'll be right back. Thank you. Selves back in after a 5-minute pause there. Again, thank you to everyone who showed up tonight. That was quite a discussion, and appreciate everyone's comments.
Sure was.
So we are now moving to the next item on the agenda, which is 23-129, to set a public hearing date of January 8th to consider and act on scheduling an advisory referendum on the proposal for an affordable housing project on Drown Road from Westbrook Development Corporation. So this obviously is the next step in the agenda, which is now that we've voted to accept the RFP, to enter into the MOU with the developer. The next step is to actually set the public hearing date, not to vote, but to set the public hearing date for January 8th for the referendum vote. So just the question was whether it's January 8th or March 5th. The January 8th date is the date to actually vote as a council to set up and create the referendum. The ultimate vote on the issue of whether we move forward would be then on March 5th. So, any questions from the public on this topic, apart from the one we just received? Do you mind stepping up to the microphone?
Catherine Pelletreau, I live over here on Drown Road. I wanted to, I guess, express not concern, but question about the language of the referendum. How is that determined? Who actually writes the language? Because a question that says, do you support affordable housing in Cumberland? Very, very different than do you support a proposal on Drown Road for 107 units with Westbrook Development Corporation. So I want to draw attention to the actual language and not have it come out the minute before you vote it.
Sure, that's a very fair question and a good comment. I don't know, Mr. Manager, you've worked with our town attorney in the past
Yes,
drafting
our
language?
town attorney will write it. It will be specific to the project, and it will be a yes or no. She has cautioned us on the length of the question because the charter doesn't allow us to advocate one way or the other for the item, so it has to be a yes or no question. It should be ready probably in the next week or so. She was waiting to see how all this went, if there were any changes to any of that, and she will begin to work on it. But it's going to be very similar to the last part you stated. You know, do you support a project of 107 units at Drown and as presented to the town council? Something very simple, but I think enough explanation to show that this is the project. It isn't just, you know, do you like sunshine? So.
Everybody likes sunshine.
I know.
Thank you. Councilor Vail.
Rest assured, the ballot will be very specific as you requested.
And yes means to mean yes, not no. So.
Right. No, but very, very good question. Thank you.
Good point.
I've had several
sorry, Kate.
people ask me why March and not wait till perhaps June when there's a larger turnout. And because March, well, first of all, they thought March would be a special election until I reminded them that it's primaries. So that's, you know, I think there's the motion, the desire by the council to get a decision about this made, but I have had quite a few people ask me, like, would June be okay? So I just wanted us, that's something we can discuss next week. I just wanted to share that with you all, so you had some thinking time before we discuss this at a public hearing.
Sure.
Okay?
Can I just interject? If we are going to do it on March 5th, you have to make the decision on January 8th.
Okay.
January 9th, I have to send to the printers the exact language that will be on the ballot so that it can be ready for February 5th, the start of absentee voting. So there is no
Lag.
2-week delay after January 8th. We just, we can't hand count.
Good to know.
So that's the biggest reason. So if you're punting down the road, I think this was also one of the things we discussed with Westbrook Development Corporation about trying to get a answer earlier to them rather than later. because of the lag of funding that they're going to have. This project could be anywhere from 12 to 18 months before they know if they are going to get funding. So we're not going to know instantly by June or July, but there's going to be a process that they have to follow through to basically
Well,
line
part
up
of the
funding.
concern was there are a lot of unenrolled voters who would not even come to the polling place in March.
So let's
Because-
talk to Jen a little bit about that. Now with the open primary, things change, and I just don't know how that changes. And
Yeah.
it would be great at our January 8th meeting, Bren, to have Jennifer Doden, our town clerk here, to explain to the council how
That
that
would be great.
votes. Because I think they can enroll for a very short period of time and then unenroll again if they'd like.
Well, some of us might be doing that.
Well, they're both, there's a Republican and a and a
Or maybe
Democratic.
unenrolling shortly after.
Correct. Any other questions from the public? Any other questions from the council on this? Again, this is just about setting the date for January 8th to actually hold the vote of the council to create the referendum.
Just a quick question. Sorry.
That's fine.
Supposed to-
Councilor
yeah.
Douglas.
So if we pushed it to the June vote, what would that mean with Westbrook Housing?
Well, we can ask Tyler that and ask him to respond to that. I don't want to second guess what's going on with him. I don't know if it would kick our project out of the queue for them or.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I will
Just
ask
out of
him
curiosity, I don't.
specifically.
Sure.
Yeah. All right.
Councilor Douglas. Or Doug.
You can
Fill
call
some-
me
sorry,
anything.
sorry.
I would offer you a motion unless, yeah.
Okay.
I love a public hearing, so I'd love to give you one. Okay. I move to set a public hearing date of January 8th to consider and act on scheduling an advisory referendum on the proposal for an affordable housing project on Drown Road from Westbrook Development Corporation.
Second.
Okay. Any other, and again, just to reemphasize this point, in the motion, it does say the word advisory referendum. Again, that comes back to this question about non-binding. And I think there was a lot of discussion online and just through emails about this. And I think it's a legal technicality is what it is. We checked with our town attorney, and unless the referendum is being brought up under sections 1 and 2 of Article 10, it would be binding in those instances. Because this is a voluntary, council-driven initiative that we are pushing forward as opposed to something else under those 2 sections, this would technically be non-binding, but I think we've all clearly stated this evening that whatever those decisions are at the actual vote in March or June or whatever it is, would be effectively binding on all of us, and that we would respect that result. So just wanted to make that clear.
But just be careful when you say that, because there are rights that the citizens have when we do these referendums that are still there.
Correct.
So we just want to be careful that this is a vote that we're asking everybody to give us, essentially their opinion on the project. And I think it's the correct way to do it, but it doesn't mean we may not have other challenges.
Yep, that's correct. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 23-130 to consider and act on authorizing spending from reserve funds to prepare for and permit a potential playground at Twin Brook. Councilor Douglas, I know you've been working on this a little bit, not trying to call on you. Councilor Story King, I know you've been working on this, and you had, Mr. Manager had some information in our packet. It sounds like that there's been discussions about expanding or creating a potential playground at Twin Brook, and one of the things, I guess the first steps in that process would be to permit this change, whatever it ends up looking like.
Correct.
And so we're looking to use reserve funds that have been set aside for this process, effectively for the permitting at this point, right?
Correct.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
It's a very expensive permit because it basically goes through the DEP and modifies our existing Site Location of Development Act permit, which is called the SLOTA permit. Anytime we do additional land development at Twin Brook, we have to make sure that we don't impact additional wetlands. We have inventoried the wetlands, and basically we are not impacting any additional wetlands. So now we're looking at an area of somewhere between 10,000 and 40,000 square feet of the park that the rec committee will be looking at with their new subcommittee. And that area will have to go to the planning board for permitting, as well as the state to amend our DEP permit. So it's a process, unfortunately. It's a big parcel of land, and when you have large parcels of land, you basically have to follow the rules or you get in trouble. So that's where the process starts, and hope to at least get the land use and the land area permitted, and then it can take 2-3 years, whatever it takes for the funding for the playground to come forward is fine, but we want to make sure that it's permissible as a land use and that it's allowed under our DEP permit as well.
And this also, I think there was an additional document in our packet that was sent.
Oh,
later
from Pete.
Yeah, from Pete, about that the idea is that if you're already going forward with some permitting, you might as well add these other sections
Thank you.
as well, right?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We're looking at, if we're going to look at an amendment to this, does it make sense to look at a couple areas that might be good for overflow parking, especially on the Greeley Road side? Is there another area that maybe another ball field can be put in, like behind the backstop of the baseball field that's on the Greeley Road side? These are things that were looked in the master plan when Twin Brook was developed, and they just never were formally permitted. So if we're going anyway, we might as well just add those to them. We don't have funding lined up for them, but if we could get permitting for them on the DEP side, that's the expensive permit. Those are good for 5 years. So that's what we're hoping to gather. And hopefully we'll get those built within 5 years, or maybe some of those we could build in-house, especially the expanded gravel parking areas.
Well,
Then I see, yeah.
I was the wonderful Mike Schwint, who is with us this evening, even at this late hour, did shoot over an email just reminding us that we should have some coordination between the Rec Committee and the Lands and Conservation Commission on this project. I think I fired over an email, so hopefully we can just get that dialogue going so that we're all on the same page and there's no surprises. So, and thanks, Mike, for being here at 10 o'clock.
One of the things we learned at our Recreation Advisory Committee meeting the other night was that regarding the DEP, even if we put this playground right beside the parking lot where it obviously has no wetland protection, that whole piece of property, that whole Twin Brooks property has DEP restrictions on it. And some of those previous DEP restrictions involved conditions on other parts of the park or in other areas. So if we had built a trail somewhere, for example, way back when, we might have said, okay, yeah, but we're not going to touch this piece of property here. It's going to be left unchanged. That was all part of that. So it might seem silly that the rec committee pretty much decided the location, and they authorized putting together a committee. They have already a playground committee established with people agreed. Bailey's on it, I think.
Yep, I'm on it.
And, yeah, so this is just part of the process. Recreation has already, because this has been something on their radar for a while, they've set aside some monies. We'll see more requests coming as part of the budget process, CIP, or coming up in the next year. But this is another one of those things I was initially opposed because I love the open space but there have been some compelling reasons to have a playground there. First and foremost, some place for little kids to play while their older siblings are off throwing a lacrosse ball around.
Yes, Bob.
Councilor Bell.
Is there any reason to, you mentioned the cost of the permit, is there any reason not to explore other uses that might come up in the future that we could have put under review, or is it just there's no open end?
If you have some, they would be really helpful to know now. Looking at the master plan and going through, I think Pete Bingham was where I sat down with for a half hour, because he knows everything about the park and all the uses, and then Chris and I sat down, because Chris has built most of it. So, for me, that kind of opened my eyes to the parking issues and the ball field issues and some other issues that could come down the pike, and they listed all they could, and that's why I put them on a map and I sent them to you. I said, just look at these ideas as well. So if you're hearing of things, Bob, please let us know, because the permit and all the stuff we have to put in for background information is complicated, but the areas are not that complicated. We can put a circle around here and say, this could be a future, this kind of area, and we can get that permitted. I'm more concerned about any of the environmental impact areas, because we have to be careful on any additional impact on wetlands there. So that's, yeah, so it's all on the table.
Okay. I don't believe we have, oh, sure, yes, public comment.
Yeah, you get a 2-for-1 for this one. I didn't know this was on the agenda, so I'm pretty excited. This is something I always joke about. If I won Powerball or something, I would throw a massive playground at Twin Brook or something like that. And just understanding the town and knowing Twin Brook and the special place it is that, because I looked at the diagram that was out, the playground or the proposed playground, is that front corridor a requirement? That's where it's got to go? Or has there been any looking into other spots? Because one is, the road, right, kids, I don't really like the road. And two, I was thinking more centralized, because you have all those different fields, and you have all those parents that are gonna have their kids run to the playground and still be trying to watch the game and things. Is that's where it's gotta go because of the environmental protection stuff, or is it able to be more centralized into Twin Brooks? I know it's a little bit of walk for somebody to just play on
I think
it,
the
but-
big thing, Kevin, was they were trying to keep it near the bathrooms.
Okay.
And that was the biggest thing, because kids running back and forth, they didn't want them running all the way across the park to get there. And I think that was one thing. And I do believe the
Handicap
land
accessibility as well.
van accessibility, trying to make it ADA compliant,
Yeah.
all the grades, all of those things are going to be built into that. And this is not going to happen overnight. They've got a lot of creative people and got some really good ideas, and I'm really excited that, we're going to look at this as, carefully with Twin Brook. I mean, you want to talk about committee meetings, when we built the shelter building out there, we must have gone through about 14 different designs before, the most simple, make it a barn, make it look like the rest of Tuttle Road. That was the coolest thing ever, and that was Annie Whitty. She paid for an architect to basically draft it and show it and come to a meeting, and that's how things come out. So getting the legalese, the non-sexy part of playgrounds out of the way is our first objective, and then starting to come up with a vision for what this is going to look like will be the next one. But yeah, I think that was one of the things. But if you have ideas, please share them with Shirley or Bailey. They're our representatives to that committee.
The more central that you can get it, the better. Or
And you know
again,
Pete, so,
exactly,
yeah.
the ADA and all that kind of stuff and everything. But just
To your point too, we did, the initial location we really wanted was on the east-facing side of the shelter building, so towards the more public setting, but there's wetland. We did a wetland analysis on it, and it wasn't a good location to put a playground. That's mostly why we landed where we did, knowing that there was opportunity to potentially build out that bridge area for access to bathrooms, also make it ADA compliant, also being able to utilize from a parent to car perspective. There's some thought that went into it.
Absolutely, for sure. Well, hopefully I can still win Powerball and build a bigger one.
Please,
We'll
we'll
take a
accept your
look.
money.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
We'll name the swing set after you, Kev.
Okay, anyone else from the public comments on this? Okay, seeing none, I would accept a motion.
I can give that to you. This is my first motion, in case anyone is wondering. I move to authorize spending from reserve funds to prepare for and permit a potential playground at Twin Brook.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous.
Woohoo!
Congratulations on your first motion.
I mean, it's taken me 6 months to get there, so.
Hey, that's okay.
Was that your first motion?
Yes.
Oh my God, congratulations.
That's great.
It took me a long time to build up the guts, so here we are.
Okay.
You're in the big leagues now.
Can't wait to tell the rec committee.
I mean,
Speaking of fun and interesting things, we are now moving to 23-131 to hold a public hearing to rescind Article 4, low-impact development of Chapter 242, Stormwater Management, passed on October 24th of 2022 with an applicability date of 7/1 of '24. So has not gone into effect yet. It's my understanding, Mr. Manager, you can jump in here if I'm missing something, but we put this ordinance into place because the Maine DEP had said that this is what the standard should be. So we, being a good, I guess, town, decided to follow the DEP's guidance and put this into place. Apparently, this standard was then challenged in a legal challenge by Friends of Casco Bay, who were successful in their challenge, ultimately getting the DEP to now amend the standard. And so it's now recommended that we as a town rescind the previous ordinance that we had in place because it will no longer be the standard, and simply wait for the DEP to publish its new regulations and new standards, so that way we have the proper ordinance in place when those new standards go into place. And it strikes me as kind of a no harm, no foul situation, because this was not supposed to go into, the current ordinance we had drafted was not supposed to go into effect until July of 2024. If that's not clear as mud to everyone, I don't know.
Thank you, because it's much clearer mud than it was when I was trying to read through it.
I read the whole thing, and at
wow.
the end of it, I said to myself,
What
we
does
should do
this
nothing. We should
mean?
do
I know.
nothing and wait till they come back with something specific. It was mind-boggling. You want us to rescind this, but you haven't got a new one, and anyway.
It's not going to be this one.
Yeah, it's not gonna be this one.
I understand that, but I was looking, it's like, okay, there's no carrot and there's no stick, so.
So it's one of these, it strikes me as we do it now or we do it later. And so it's before us tonight, we've been here for a while, and if it's not gonna be the standard based on a legal challenge, shouldn't we just move forward and get rid of the?
Your logic overwhelms me.
So is there any public comment on this? Let the record reflect that Bill Shane is rubbing his forehead now.
Please, no.
We could get your blood pressure checked, too.
your face is
Any-
looking red, Bill.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you.
I move to rescind Article 4, low-impact development of Chapter 242, Stormwater Management, passed 10/24/2022 with an applicability date of 7/1/2024.
Second. Sorry, Bailey.
Bailey was
excited.
looking for her first second.
She's on a roll.
Things are getting crazy.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second to rescind our current ordinance language, to wait for the DEP to come up with its new standards, so then we can put that into place. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. The next is legislation and policy item 23-132 to authorize the town manager to enter into a 5-year lease renewal with Rachel's on the Green at Valhalla. Mr. Manager, do you want to give a little background on this?
So for the last few times, we have put forward a 5-year lease, but that lease can be amended after the first year with 6 months' notice. So if we wanted to end, I should say end the lease, not amend the lease. If we wanted to end the lease, we can end the lease at any time during that 5 years after the first 18 months. So we have to give the proprietor notice that we're going to basically terminate the contract, and that can be done for no cause. So in the previous contracts, there was about 5 different items that we had to meet for cause to terminate a contract, and they could give us termination notice in 30 days, and they could be walking out the door. So we changed it around a little bit and said, we want the ability to have the opportunity to end if it isn't working well. And if it isn't working well, it impacts, basically our community, the golfers, everybody, and everybody loses. It's been a very successful business. We want them to continue to be successful, but we also want to protect the town and our assets. So that's probably the biggest change in there. I think the rent went up as well. And they continue to be a good place to meet, gather, and have food and friends. So we're excited they're willing to move forward. I don't know what it looks like. Patty Dunn has been there for a while. She may be stepping away in the near future. Mike may be as well. So that's why the safety net is important that we have it. So, but we are recommending to move forward. We have had a great relationship with Celeste and the whole team down there. So I'm very confident they'll continue and do a good job.
Great. Any comments from the public on this agenda item? Okay, seeing none. Any comments or questions from the council?
I'll give you a motion, Mr. Chair. I move to authorize the town manager to enter into a 5-year lease renewal with Rachel's on the Green at Valhalla.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion on that motion?
I just want to thank them. They are a consistent supporter of programs throughout our town and community, from the food pantry to buying ads in sports programs, and they just are model. They're a model business, and I'm happy that we're in business with them.
Would agree. Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 23-133 to appoint John Brushwine as the tax assessor.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second.
Does he want the job?
Barely.
Barely.
He's hanging on by a thread.
Well,
Okay.
we got him.
Let's get this contract signed before
We have a
change
motion
this.
and we have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Don't let him get away.
Right, stuck for another year.
Get him signed.
Let's not look so desperate.
Chain
We
him-
look
chain him
very
to his-
desperate.
Chain him to his desk.
Right. Okay, the last agenda item tonight is 23-134 to authorize the town manager to renew a 3-year contract with 207 Forestry Consulting Services, LLC, for forest management and consulting services. We do have Mr. Mike Schwint in the crowd tonight if he would like to address this, but it's my understanding that our wonderful town forester, Paul Larrabee, who's been doing forestry-related advisory and consulting services for us for quite some time, is looking to renew that contract. So I see Mr. Schwint walking up to the podium. I'd be happy to turn it over to you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Paul has done a darn good job for us, and we would just as soon have this contract renewed so we can keep going forward. We got plenty of work for him to do, and so appreciate the positive vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's my understanding that this lease, or excuse me, not the lease, the contract is relatively straightforward and similar to what we've entered into in the past. There may be a few slight changes with respect to the hourly rate, but nothing considerable popped out to me immediately. Anyone else?
No, you nailed it on the hourly rate. I think it's gone up $10 an hour, maybe slightly for travel. I think that we've all benefited firsthand from the walks with Paul Larrabee. He is excellent. He is smart. He is passionate. He could get me really excited at 7:30 a.m. to go through and look at invasive plants. So I think he's an asset to the town. So I thoroughly support this.
In addition, he's a municipal officer in his town, so he understands how challenging sometimes municipal forestry can be. So I appreciate that as well.
Okay, any other comments from the public here? And thank you, Mr. Schwint, for jumping in. Seeing none, okay, I would happily accept a motion.
Love Paul Larrabee. I move to authorize the town manager to renew a 3-year contract with 207 Forestry Consulting Services, LLC, for forest management and consulting services.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
A second?
Yes, we do have a second. I think we already have one.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous as well. Thank you. So that concludes legislation and policy. We will start, I guess, down at my left with Councilor Kopp with any new business you may have.
I want to donate my $20 to the 4-H food pantry, and my good friend Dean has donated another $20, which I forgot to give at the last meeting. It was still folded up in my wallet, so thank you, Dean. And I would like to thank all of the rest of the councilors for your generous gifts, and much appreciated. Thank you. That's all I have.
You're killing me, you're killing me.
Want to borrow $20?
All right, there's 10. Oh, 15.
Thank you.
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay, I'll be really fast. One, thank you to all of the counselors for your beautiful gifts. Thank you, Run Cop, for loaning me your very, very cozy wool sweater. We have to do something about the heat and the cold in this room. It is a living.
Sweating over here.
Okay. But I do really quickly, John Jensenius and the Trails Committee have been like constructing walkways like crazy, and it's awesome. A 46-foot walkway on the Greeley Woods, a 213-foot walkway on the Yellow Trail in Ryan's Forest, and a 72-foot walkway at Knight's Pond that he decked himself the other day with John and Brian Stearns. Just amazing work, a lot of grit, and a lot of time and energy, and it's cold out, and it's been really wet. And John Jensenius, you are awesome. That's it from me.
Thank you. Douglas.
Shirley's going to give our update on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Yep.
Did I say that wrong again?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Do you have anything else?
No, that's it.
Oh, okay. Well, so Bailey and I attended a Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting on last Thursday. And we also learned about the great work the Trails crew's been doing. Don Stoll came and shared. It's really been a collaborative effort among all our departments. It's great to see. There was some discussion at our meeting concerned that the winter program didn't arrive in mailboxes until after programs had actually gotten filled up. And that was not our issue, that was the Postal Service issue. They had the post office had a backlog, go figure. We are happy to announce that Saturday, February 3rd, everybody mark your calendars, will be Winter Family Fun Day. It's going to take place at Valhalla, and the schedule's not out yet, and it'll be somewhat dependent on the weather, but even if there's no snow for skiing, there's probably going to be a bonfire and s'mores and just a fun family gathering, very similar to what happened last summer over to Twin Brooks. And I think that pretty much summarizes. We talked about the playground. And so we've shared that information already. I would like you all to know, this is another recreation-related, 55 plus, but on Christmas Day, Devin Galvin, who heads up, she chairs our 55 plus, she's our coordinator for that. She and her husband and her son will be having a luncheon at Valhalla on Christmas Day. Her own time, her own initiative. She must be an angel for these people. When I spoke to her, I said, really? You're giving up your Christmas Day? She is more than happy to do it. When I spoke to her last week, she already had 35 residents signed up to come to this luncheon. And that was kind of bittersweet information for me. I'm sad that thinking those people might not have somewhere else to go, but so grateful for her and her husband and her son's generosity. And I think she deserves a special star for that level of commitment. Speaking of level of commitment, the firefighters hosted an incredible pancake breakfast. They're one of my favorite charities, the Firefighters for Kids. Their need is as great as ever. And I have never waited in line so long for pancakes. And I got there near the end of it too, and there were so many people there. So I'm also proud of their work.
supporting individuals in our community. And since I'm at the end of the line, Mark has final word, but I want to wish everyone a happy holiday, whatever holiday that might be.
Beer drinking?
Is that a holiday officially?
That's a national holiday.
Thank you, Shirley. I also would like to thank all the counselors for the wonderful holiday gifts, and just to let Mike Eads know, our colleague who is not here this week, that we've got his candy and everything down to the right, and we'll try to not eat it before he gets back. But thank you for those. I also, mentioning Devin Galvin and Valhalla, I want to say that I had the pleasure of attending the Employee Appreciation Luncheon on Thursday, I believe that was, with Counselor Kopp and Mike Eads, and it blew me away, not only the number of people that we had attend that, but just the jovial atmosphere that was there, and also the level of time in which certain employees have worked here. I mean, from, hey, it's been, been here 6 months to, I've been here almost 30 years. I mean, it was
35 years.
35
Dan
years. It's unbelievable. And so that was really impressive for me to see. It was also impressive for me to see that the moment that the EMT sat down to eat, they immediately had to get back up, bless you, immediately had to get back up and go out the door for an emergency. So they didn't even get to take a bite of the sandwich that they just put down. So that just shows us what the commitment is of the town, and they didn't, I mean, it was within a millisecond of touching the seat, they were back up. So that was really great for me to see. And also, I just want to thank everyone. It's almost 10:30 at night. We had a lot of people come tonight. I hope we continue to have more people come. That's kind of part of this process. In terms of the residents who said that they want us to do a little bit better in terms of communicating with them and making sure they know what's coming up. Again, just a quick little summary here. January 8th is when we will actually vote to potentially set a referendum for affordable housing. January, if that moves forward, January 18th is when we would have our first public meeting. February 1st is when we would have our next one. And then February 29th is when we would have our final public workshop on this topic. So we'll keep bringing those dates up so folks are aware of that. And that,
I did talk to our TV crew tonight and asked if it'd be possible to film one of those events, and they are going to get back to me. I think they will be able to film one of those events. So
okay,
fingers crossed that will help, and then we can get that up on the website as well.
That's great. Okay, anything else from counselors? If not, I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the public for staying so late.
I forgot Mike's president. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
I appreciate you.